the Mercury Theater on the air. The Columbia Broadcasting System takes pleasure once again in bringing you Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in the unique summer series which signalizes radio's first presentation of a complete theatrical producing company. In tonight's performance, the sixth in a group of 9 weekly broadcasts, the regular CBS stations are joined by a coast-to-coast network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Here is Orson Welles himself, the director of the Mercury Theater, star and producer of these programs, to tell you about tonight's play. Mr. Welles.
Wherever you are in the world, an hour and a half from now, there will come to you through these same radio facilities the voice of the President of the United States. Until then, here is another president. His words, at least, which on Monday, August the 15th, 1938, are still entirely alive, and his person preserved in a fine and very famous play. His words we have collected for this broadcast from many sources, from letters and speeches, debates and proclamations, and from the written record of his own private conversation. They amount to a testament of his abiding faith in this, our land of the free. Much of it you will recognize, and much of it is as new as though this microphone were in the White House tonight.
I was born February 12th, 1809, in Hardin County, Kentucky. My parents were both in Virginia, of undistinguished families, second families, perhaps I should say. My mother, who died in my 10th year, was of a family of the name of Hanks, some of whom now reside in Macon County, Illinois. My paternal grandfather emigrated from Rockingham County, Virginia, to Kentucky, where a year or two later he was killed by the Indians. When I came of age, somehow I could read, write, and cipher to the rule of 3. That was all. I have not been to school since. The little advance I now have upon this store of education I picked up from time to time under the pressure of necessity. I was raised to farm work, which I continued till I was 22. 21, I came to New Salem, where I remained a year as a sort of clerk in a store. Then came the Black Hawk War, and I was elected a captain of the volunteers, a success which gave me more pleasure than any I've had since. From 1849 to 1854, I practiced law in Springfield. What I've done since then is pretty well known. If any personal description of me is thought desirable, it may be said I am in height 6 feet 4 inches, nearly and lean in flesh, weighing on an average 180 pounds, dark complexion with coarse black hair and gray eyes. No other marks or brands recollected. Yours truly, Abraham Lincoln.
Gentlemen, you said this was a great evening for me. It is. And I'll say more than I mostly do because it is. I'm likely to go into history now with a great man. For now I know better than any how great he is. I'm plain-looking, and I've a sharp tongue, and I've a mind that doesn't always go in his easy high way. And that's what history will see, and it will laugh a little and say, "Poor Abe Lincoln." That's all right, but it's not all. I've always known when he should go forward and when he should hold back. I've watched and watched. There are women like that, lots of them. But I'm lucky. My work's going farther than Illinois. It's going farther than any of us can tell. I made things easy for him to think and think when we were poor. And now his thinking has brought him to this. They wanted to make him governor of Oregon. And he would have gone and have come to nothing there. I stopped him. Now they're coming from Chicago, from the Republican convention there, to ask him to be president. And I've told him to go.
It's a great place for a man to fill. You know, it's hard to believe. When I think of the times I've sat in this room of an evening and seen your husband come in, ma'am, with his battered hat and tie falling off the back of his head, and stuffed with papers that won't go into his pockets, and God darning some rascal who done him about an assignment or a trespass. Why, I can't think he's gone up there into the eyes of the world.
Well, Mary. How do, Samuel? How do, Timothy?
Good evening, Abraham.
Good evening, Abraham. Well, we'll be going. We only came in to give you good faring, so to say. Great word you got to speak this evening.
Makes a humble body almost afraid of himself, Abraham, to know his friend is to be one of the great ones of the earth, with his yes and no law for these many, many thousands of folk.
Makes a man humble to be chosen so, Samuel. So humble that no man but would say no to such bidding if he dare. To be president of this people, and trouble gathering everywhere in men's hearts. And it's a searching thing. Bitterness, scorn, and wrestling often with men I shall despise, and perhaps nothing truly done at the end. But I must go. Samuel, Timothy, let's glass that cordial, man, before they leave. Who made that devil smudge that girl? Susan Deddington. Where's that darnation cordial?
It's all right, Abraham. I told the girl to keep out. Oh, the cupboard's choked with papers. Here you are.
Poor heart and holiday for whiskey-drinking rascals like yourselves, but the thought's good.
Oh, don't mention it, Abraham.
We wish you well, Abraham. Our compliments, ma'am. Samuel, I give you the United States of America and Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you.
Samuel, Timothy, I drink to the hope of honest friends. Mary, the friendship. I'll need that always, for I've a queer, anxious heart. Give you the United States of America.
Well, good night, Abraham. Good night, ma'am.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, ma'am.
Good night, Mr. Stone. Good night, Mr.
Good night,
Cuthbert.
Samuel. Good night, Timothy. Thanks for coming.
You'd better see them in here.
5 minutes to 7. You're sure about it, Mary?
Yes. Aren't you?
We mean to set bonds to slavery. The South will resist. They may try to break away from the Union. If the Union is set aside, America will crumble. Saving of it may mean blood.
Who is to shape it all if you don't?
There's nobody. I know it.
Then go.
Go.
The gentlemen have come.
I'll come to them. I'll send them in. Abraham, I believe in you.
I know. I know. I hold that there is no reason in the world why the Negro is not entitled to all the natural rights enumerated in the Declaration of Independence. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I hold that he is as much entitled to these as the white man, and the right to eat the bread without the leave of anybody else, which his own hand earns. He is my equal, and the equal of every living man.
November 6th, 1860. Republican Party 180 out of 303 electoral votes. 1,857,000 out of 4,645,000 popular votes. Lincoln elected president.
Fellow citizens of the Senate and House of Representatives, this issue, the right of secession, embraces more than the fate of these United States. It presents to the whole family of men the question whether a constitutional republic or democracy, a government of the people, by the same people, can or cannot maintain its territorial integrity against its own domestic forces. It presents the question whether discontented individuals, too few in numbers to control administration, can always, upon the pretenses or arbitrarily without any pretense, break up their government and thus practically put an end to free government upon the earth. Is there, in all republics, this inherent and fatal weakness? Must the government of necessity be too strong for the liberties of its own people, or too weak to maintain its own existence?
Common feeling in the South, Mr. Seward, that as Secretary of State, you are the one man here at Washington to see this thing with large imagination. I say this with no disrespect to the President. But what does his experience in great affairs of state amount to beside yours, Mr. Seward?
My support of the President is, of course, unquestionable, Mr. Jennings.
Oh, entirely. But how can your support be more valuable than in lending him your unequaled understanding?
You understand, of course, that I can say nothing officially.
These are nothing but informal suggestions.
But I may tell you that I am not unsympathetic.
I was sure that that would be so.
Yes, come in.
The President is coming up the stairs, sir.
Thank you. This is unfortunate. Say nothing and go at once.
Here he is.
Good morning, Mr. Seward. Morning, Miss Jennings.
Good morning, President.
And I'm obliged to you for calling, Mr. Jennings. Good morning.
Perhaps Mr. Jennings could spare me 10 minutes. Say 5 minutes. I'm anxious always for any opportunity to exchange views with our friends in the South. Much enlightenment may be gained in 5 minutes. Be seated, I beg you, Mr. Seward will allow us.
By all means. Shall I leave you?
Leave us, but why? I may want your support, Mr. Secretary, if we should not wholly agree. Well, Mr. Jennings, you have messages for us.
Mr. Jennings, in his anxiety for peace, was merely seeking the best channel through which suggestions could be made.
To whom?
To the government.
The head of the government is here.
But,
Come, sir. What is it?
It's this matter of Fort Sumter, Mr. President.
Yes?
If you withdraw your garrison from Fort Sumter, it won't be looked upon as weakness in you. We believe that the South at heart does not want secession. It wants to establish the right to decide for itself.
The South wants a stamp of national approval upon slavery. Can't have it.
Mr. President, if I may say so, you don't quite understand.
Does Mr. Seward understand?
I believe so.
You were wrong. He doesn't understand because you didn't mean him to. I don't blame you. You think you're acting for the best. You think you've got an honest case, but I'll put your case for you, and I'll put it naked. Many people in this country want abolition, many don't. But every man, whether he wants it or not, knows it may come. Why does the South propose secession? Because it knows abolition may come and it wants to avoid it. I said the other day that Fort Sumter would be held as long as we could hold it. I said it because I know exactly what it means.
I see how it is. You may force freedom as much as you like, but we are to beware how we force slavery.
Couldn't be put better, Mr. Jennings. That's what the Union means. It is a union that stands for common right. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, do not allow it to break our bonds of affection. That is our answer. Tell them that. Will you tell them that?
You are determined?
I beg you to tell them.
It shall be as you wish.
Implore them to order your troops' return. You can telegraph it now from here. Will you do that?
If you wish it. But it will do no good, Mr. Lincoln. They won't give way.
It's a grave decision. Terribly grave. For all of us. Morning, Mr. Jennings. So this won't do.
You don't suspect, Mr.
I do
President?
not, but let us be plain. No man can say how wisely, but Providence has brought me to the leadership of this country with a task before me greater than that which rested on Washington himself. When I made my cabinet, you were the first man I chose. I do not regret it. I think I never shall. But remember, faith earns faith. What is it? Why didn't this man come to see me?
He thought my word might bear more weight with you than his.
Your word for what?
Discretion about Fort Sumter.
Discretion?
It's devastating, this thought of civil war.
It is. You think I'm less sensible of that than you. War should be impossible. But you can only make it impossible by destroying its causes. If we withdraw from Fort Sumter, we do nothing to destroy that cause. We can only destroy it by convincing the southern states that secession is a betrayal of their trust. Please, God, we may do so.
Has there perhaps been some timidity in making all this clear to the country?
Timidity? You were talking of discretion.
I mean that perhaps our policy has not been sufficiently defined.
And have you not concurred in all our decisions? Seward, you may think I'm simple, but I can see your mind working as plainly as you might see the innards of a clock. You can bring great gifts to this government with your zeal and your administrative experience and your love of men. Don't spoil it by thinking I've got a dull brain.
Yes, I see. I've not been thinking quite clearly about it all. Mr. President, I beg your pardon.
That's brave of you. Give me your hand. Come in.
There's a messenger from Major Anderson, sir. He's ridden straight from Fort Sumter.
All right, Hay, bring him in.
Yes, sir.
Don't like the sound of it. One moment, Hay.
Yes?
Are there any gentlemen of the cabinet in the house?
Mr. Chase and Mr. Blair, I believe.
My compliments to them, and will they be prepared to see me here at once if necessary? Send the same message to any other cabinet members you can find. Seward, we may have to decide now. Now, come in. Are you the messenger from Fort Sumter?
Yes, sir. Word of mouth, sir.
Well?
Major Anderson presents his duty to the government. He can hold the fort 3 days more without provisions and reinforcements.
Things very bad at the fort.
The major says 3 days, sir. Most of us would have said 24 hours.
I see. Thank you. Wait outside, please.
Yes, sir.
3 days, Seward, 3 days. My God. My God, Seward, we need great courage, great faith. There is a tide in the affairs of men. Do you read Shakespeare, Seward?
Shakespeare? No.
The cabinet is here, sir. Chase, Mr. Hook, and Mr. Wells.
Show them in.
Yes, sir.
Good day, Mr. President.
Good morning, Mr. Wells, Mr. Hook.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. President.
How do you do, Mr. Seward? Something urgent?
Let us be seated. Gentlemen, we meet in a crisis, the most fateful perhaps that has ever faced any government in this country. Can be stated briefly. A message has just come from Anderson. He can hold Fort Sumter 3 days at most unless we send men and provisions.
Mr. President,
I consider that we should withdraw.
Don't you see that to withdraw may postpone war, but that it will make it inevitable in the end?
It is inevitable if we resist.
I fear it will be so, but in that case we shall enter it with uncompromised principles. Mr. Chase?
It is difficult, but on the whole, my opinion is with yours, Mr. President.
And you, Seward?
I respect your opinion, but I must differ.
I charge you, all of you, to weigh this thing with all your understanding. To temporize now cannot, in my opinion, avert war. To speak plainly to the world and standing by our resolution to hold Fort Sumter with all our means and in a plain declaration that the Union must be preserved will leave us with a clean cause, simply and loyally supported. I tremble at the thought of war. But we have in our hands a sacred trust. It is threatened. Persuasion has failed, and I conceive it to be our duty to resist. To withhold supplies from Fort Sumter would be to deny that duty. Gentlemen, the matter is before you. For sending men and provisions to Fort Sumter, 3. For immediate withdrawal, 5. Gentlemen, I may have taken upon myself the responsibility of overriding your vote. It will be for me to satisfy Congress and public opinion. Should I receive any resignations? Thank you for your consideration. Will you send in that messenger?
Yes, sir.
You sent for me, Mr. President?
I did. Can you ride back to Fort Sumter at once?
Yes, sir.
Tell Major Anderson that we cannot reinforce him immediately. We haven't the men.
Yes, sir.
Say that the first convoy of supplies will leave Washington this evening.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Whereas the laws of the United States have been for some time past and now are opposed, and the execution thereof obstructed in the states of South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, by combinations too powerful to be suppressed by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, or by the powers vested in the marshals by law. Now, therefore, I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, in virtue of the power in me vested by the Constitution and the laws, have thought fit to call forth and do hereby call forth militia of the several states of the Union to the number of 75,000 in order to suppress said combinations and to cause the laws to be duly executed.
You are listening to Orson Welles as Abraham Lincoln in Columbia's presentation of the Mercury Theater on the Air. The broadcast is an adaptation of John Drinkwater's Abraham Lincoln with original Lincoln speeches. The drama will continue in just a moment. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. We continue now with the performance of John Drinkwater's Abraham Lincoln by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air.
Fellow citizens of the Senate and the House of Representatives, the war continues, and it continues to develop. That the insurrection is largely, if not exclusively, a war upon the first principle of popular government, the rights of the people. It is not needed, nor fitting here, that a general argument should be made in favor of popular institutions. But there is one point to which I ask a brief attention. It is assumed that labor is available only in connection with capital. That nobody labors unless somebody else owning capital somehow by the use of it induces him to labor. This assumed, it is next considered whether it is best that capital shall hire laborers and thus induce them to work by their own consent, or buy them and drive them to it without their consent. Having proceeded that far, it is naturally concluded that all laborers are either hired laborers or what we call slaves. And further, it is assumed that whoever is once a hired laborer is fixed in that condition for life. Now, there is no such relation between capital and labor as assumed. Nor is there any such thing as a free man being fixed for life in the condition of a hired laborer. Both these assumptions are false, and all inferences from them are groundless. Labor is prior to and independent of capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor, and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. No men living are more worthy to be trusted than these who toil up from poverty. Let them beware of surrendering a political power which they already possess, and which, if surrendered, will surely be used to close the door of advancement against such as they, and to fix new disabilities and burdens upon them, till all of liberty shall be lost.
Good morning, gentlemen. I've just had my summons. Is there some special news?
Yes, McClellan has defeated Lee at Antietam. It's our greatest success. They ought not to recover from it. The tide is turning.
Have you seen the president, Mrs. Stanton?
I've just been with him.
Well, what does he say?
He only said at last. He's coming directly.
He'll bring up his proclamation again. In my opinion, it's inopportune.
I thought we had learned by now that the president is the best man among us.
There's a good deal of feeling against him everywhere, I find.
He is the one man with character enough for this business.
There are other opinions.
Yes, but not here, surely, Mr. Hook.
It's not for me to say. But there are some who would have acted differently.
And you may depend upon it that they would not have acted so wisely, Mr. Hook.
I don't altogether agree with the president, but he's the only man I should agree with at all.
Is Lee's army broken?
Not yet, but it is in grave danger.
Why doesn't the president come? I think this news was nothing.
I must say I'm anxious to know what he has to say about it all.
I shall have it if it comes up.
He may say nothing about it.
I think he will.
Gentlemen, the president.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. President.
President. Morning. Great news we hear.
If we leave things with the army now to take that course, why, we ought to see through our difficulties.
An exciting morning, gentlemen. I feel rather excited myself. I find my mind not at its best in excitement. Will you allow me to read you something? It's not long, and it may compose us all. It's Artemus Ward's latest. High-handed outrage at Utica. In the fall of 1856, I showed my show in Utica, a truly great city in the state of New York. People gave me a cordial reception. The press was loud in her praises. One day I was given a description of my beasts and snakes in my usual flowery style, when what was my consternation, and so in my cage containing the wax figures of the Lord's Last Supper, I says, but up comes a fella and seized Judas Iscariot by the feet and dragged him out on the ground. He then commenced for to pound him as hard as he could. What under the sun are you about? Cried I. Says he, what did you bring this pusillanimous cuss here for? And he hit the wax figure another tremendous blow on the head. Says I, you egregious ass, that is a wax figure. Representation of the false apostle. Says he, that's all very well for you to say, but I tell you, old man, that Judas Iscariot can't show himself in Utica with importunity by a downside, with which observation he caved in Judas's head. Young man belonged to one of the first families in Utica. I sued him, and the jury brought in a verdict of arson in the third degree. Gentlemen, I'd give up office if I could write like that.
May we now consider affairs of state?
Yes, we may.
Mr. Hook says, yes, we may.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank Mr. Hook.
McClellan is in pursuit of Lee, I suppose.
You suppose a good deal, but for the first time, McClellan has the chance of being in pursuit of Lee, and that's the first sign of their end. If McClellan doesn't take his chance, we'll move Grant down to the job.
Grant drinks.
Well, then tell me the name of his brand. I'll send him some barrels. He wins victories.
Is there any other business?
There is. Some weeks ago, I showed you a draft I made, proclaiming freedom for all slaves. You thought then it was not the time to issue it. I agreed. I think now the moment has come. I will read it. Here it is again. It is proclaimed that on the first day of January, in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, henceforward, and forever free.
I must oppose the issue of such a proclamation at this moment in the most unqualified terms.
I do not quite understand, Mr. President, why you think this the precise moment.
Believe me, gentlemen, I have considered this matter with all the earnestness and understanding of which I am capable.
But when the New York Tribune urged you to come forward with a clear declaration 6 months ago, you rebuked them.
Because I thought the occasion not the right one. My duty, it has seemed to me, has been to be loyal to a principle and not to betray it by expressing inaction at the wrong time. That is why I conceive statesmanship. For long now, I've had two fixed resolves. To preserve the Union and to abolish slavery. How to preserve the Union, I was always clear. And more than 2 years of bitterness have not dulled my vision. We have fought for the Union, and we are now winning for the Union. With that victory and a vindicated Union will come abolition. I made the promise to myself and to my Maker. The rebel army is now driven out, and I'm going to fulfill that promise. I do not wish your advice about the main matter, but that I've determined for myself. This is, I say, without intending anything but respect for any one of you. But I beg you to stand with me in this thing.
Well, in my opinion, it's altogether too impetuous.
One other observation I will make. I know very well that others might in this matter, as in others, do better than I can. And if I was satisfied that the public's confidence was more fully possessed by any one of them than by me, and knew of any constitutional way in which he could be put in my place, he should have it. I would gladly yield it to him. But though I cannot claim undivided confidence, I do know that all things considered, any other person has more. This I do not know, and moreover this may be, there is no way in which I can have any other man put where I am. I am here. I must do the best I can and bear the responsibility of taking the course which I feel I ought to take.
Could this be left over for a short time for consideration? I feel that we should remember that our only public cause at the moment is the preservation of the Union.
I entirely agree with Wells.
Gentlemen, we cannot escape history. We of this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope on earth. I shall sign this proclamation now. Excuse me, gentlemen. For we, thenceforward and forever, free. Gentlemen, I pray for your support. Good day.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
Good day, Mr. President.
Hook.
Yes, Mr. President.
Hook, will you stay a moment?
Yes, Mr. President.
Hook, one cannot help hearing things.
I beg your pardon?
Hook, there's a way some people have when a man says a disagreeable thing of asking him to repeat it, hoping to embarrass him. It's often effective, but I'm not easily embarrassed. I said one cannot help hearing things.
And I do not understand what you mean, Mr. President.
Come, Hook, we're alone. Lincoln is a good enough name, and I think you understand.
How should I?
Then plainly there are intrigues going on.
Against the government?
No. In it. Against me.
Well, criticism, perhaps.
To what end? To better my ways?
I presume that might be the purpose.
Then why am I not told what it is?
I imagine it's natural compulsion.
Or ambition?
What do you mean?
Hook, you've been bitten by the White House bug. You think you ought to be in my place.
You're well
You
informed.
cannot imagine why everyone does not see that you ought to be in my place.
By what right you say that?
It is not true.
You take me unprepared. You have me at a disadvantage.
You speak as a very scrupulous man, Hook.
You question my honor?
As you will.
Then I resign.
As a protest against
Your suspicion.
this false.
Very well. I'll be frank. I mistrust your judgment, Mr. Lincoln.
In what?
Generally, you overemphasize abolition.
You don't mean that. You mean that you fear possible public feeling against abolition.
It must be persuaded, not forced. Besides, you have, in my opinion, failed in necessary firmness in telling the South what will be the individual penalties of rebellion.
This is war. I will not allow it to become a blood feud.
But we are fighting treason. We must meet it with severity.
We will defeat treason. I will meet it with conciliation.
It is a policy of
It
weakness.
is a policy of faith. It is a policy of compassion. Hook, Hook, why do you plague me with these jealousies? Once before I found a member of my cabinet working behind my back, but he was disinterested and he made amends. Nobly. But, Hook, you have allowed the burden of these days to sour you. I know it all. I've watched you plotting and plotting for authority, and I, who am a lonely man and sick at heart. So great is the task God has given to my hand, and so few are my days, and my deepest hunger is always for loyalty in my own house. You have withheld it from me. You have done great service in your office, but you have grown envious. Now you resign as you did once before when I came openly to you in friendship. And you think that again I shall flatter you and coax you to stay. I won't do it. Let's take you at your word.
I am content.
Will you shake hands? No.
I beg you to excuse me.
Yes, Mr. President?
Mr. Hay.
Yes, sir?
Mr. Hay, I'm rather tired today. Read me a little.
Yes, certainly, sir.
The Tempest. You know the passage.
Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life ordered that the 4th day of April, 1865, be the day for a general movement of all the land and naval forces of the United States against the insurgent forces. That especially the Army of the Potomac, the Army of Western Virginia, the Army near Munfordville, Kentucky, the Army and flotilla at Cairo, and a naval force in the Gulf of Mexico be ready to move on that day.
General Grant.
Yes, Dennis?
7:30, sir.
An hour and a half. Ought to be something more from Meade by now, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Have you wired the President?
Yes, sir.
Take these papers to Captain Templeman. Ask Colonel West if the 23rd are in action yet. Tell the cook to send some soup at 10 o'clock. It was cold yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Give me that map, Mayland. Yes. There's no doubt about it. Unless Meade goes to sleep, it can only be a question of hours. Lee's a great man, but he can't get out of that.
It's already the end, sir.
Yes, if Lee surrenders, we can all pack up for home.
I guess it'll be splendid, won't it, to be back again?
By God, sir, it will.
Beg your pardon, sir.
You're quite right, Mayland. My boy goes away to school next week. Now I may be able to go down with him, see him settle. Well, Dennis?
Colonel West says yes, sir, for the last half hour. The cook says he's sorry, sir. It was a mistake.
Tell him to keep his mistakes in the kitchen.
I will, sir.
His rifles went up this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
What's that?
General Grant.
What is it?
The President has just arrived, sir. He's in the yard now.
Oh, all right, I'll come. General Grant? Wasn't expecting you, sir. No, I couldn't keep away. How's it going? Meade sent word an hour and a half ago that Lee was surrounded all but 2 miles, which was closing in. And not about settling, eh? Unless anything goes wrong in those 2 miles, sir. I'm expecting a further report from Meade every minute. Would there be more fighting?
It'll probably mean fighting through the night, more or less. But Lee must realize it's hopeless by the morning.
Dispatch, sir.
Yes.
General Meade, sir.
Thank you. You needn't wait. Yes, they've closed the ring. Meade gives them 10 hours. Timed at 8. That's 6 o'clock in the morning.
We must be merciful. Bob Lee's been a gallant fellow.
Perhaps you'll look through this list, sir. I hope it's the last we shall have.
It's a horrible part of the business, Grant. Any shootings?
One.
Damn it, Grant, why can't you do without it? Oh, no. No, of course not. Who is it?
Jim Scott says it's rather a hard case.
And what is it?
He's just on a heavy march, sir, and volunteered for double guard duty to relieve a sick friend. He was found asleep at his post.
I was anxious to spare him, but it couldn't be done. It was a critical place at a greatly critical time.
When's it to be?
Tomorrow at daybreak, sir.
You can see that it'll do him any good to be shot. Where is he?
In the barn, I believe, sir.
Thanks. Think I'll go see him.
I go with you, sir?
No, thank you.
Oh, who goes there?
Is this where the boy is held?
Yes, Mr. President.
Wait outside, will you?
Yes.
Are you William Scott?
Yes, sir.
No, I am.
Yes, Mr. Lincoln.
General tells me you've been court-martialed.
Yes, sir.
Asleep on guard.
Yes, sir.
It's a very serious offense.
I know, sir.
What was it?
I couldn't keep awake, sir.
It had a long march.
23 miles, sir.
Doing double guard?
Yes, sir.
Who ordered you?
Well, sir, I offered.
Why?
Enoch White. He was sick, sir. We come from the same place.
Where's that?
Vermont, sir.
You live there?
Yes, sir. We've got a farm down there, sir.
Who has?
My mother, sir. I've got her photograph, sir.
Does she know about this?
Oh, for God's sake, don't, sir.
There. There, my boy. There. You're not going to be shot.
Not going to be shot, sir?
No.
Not going to be shot?
There. I believe you when you tell me you couldn't keep awake. I'm going to trust you. Send you back to your regiment.
When may I go back, sir?
You can go back tomorrow. Expect the fighting to be over, though.
Is it over yet, sir?
Not quite.
Oh, please, sir. Let me go back tonight. Let me go back tonight.
Very well. Know where General Meade is?
No, sir.
It's that guard to come here. Your prisoner is discharged. Take him once to General Meade with this.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lincoln.
Mr. Hay.
Yes, sir?
What's the time, Mr. Hay?
Just on 9:30, sir.
To sleep here for a little, you better shake down, too. They'll wake us if there's any news. Mr. Hay. Mr. Hay.
Hello. What the devil is it? I beg your pardon, Mr. Lincoln.
Not at all. Slept well, Hay?
Well, I feel a little crumpled, sir.
What's the time?
6 o'clock, sir.
Listen.
I don't hear anything, Mr. Lincoln.
That's just it. Guns have stopped.
Good morning, sir. Morning, Hay.
Good morning, General.
I didn't disturb you last night. A message has come from Meade. Lee asked for an armistice at 4 o'clock.
An armistice?
Yes, sir.
An armistice. For 4 years, life has been but the hope of this moment. Strange how simple it is when it comes. Grant, you served the country very truly. Made my work possible, thank you.
Had I failed, the fault would not have been yours, sir. I succeeded because you believed in me.
Where is Lee?
He's coming here. Meade should arrive directly.
Where will Lee wait?
There's a room ready for him. Will you receive him, sir?
Oh, no, Grant. No, that's your affair. And to mention no political matters. Be generous. I needn't say that.
I have written out the terms I suggest. Here they are, sir.
Yes, they do you honor.
General Meade is here, sir. Ask him to come here. Yes, sir. I learned a good deal from Robert Lee in early days. He's a better man than most of us. This business will go pretty near his heart, sir.
I'm glad it's to be done by a brave gentleman, Grant. Congratulations, Meade. You've done well.
Thank you, sir. Was there much more fighting? Pretty hot for an hour or two. How long will Lee be? Only a few minutes, I should say, sir. You said nothing about terms. No, sir.
Did a boy named Scott come to you?
Yes, sir. He went into action at once. He was killed.
Killed? Queer world, Grant.
Is there any proclamation to be made, sir, about the rebels? I hope
there will be no persecution, no bloody work after this war's over. I'll have nothing of hanging or shooting these men, even the worst of them. Frighten them out of the country, open the gates, let down the bars, scare them off, shoo. Enough lives have been sacrificed. Goodbye, Grant. Report at Washington as soon as you can.
Mr. President.
Yes?
Is it known that you return to Washington tomorrow?
I think so.
Mr. President, I think you take too many risks. On the way here yesterday, you must have passed half a dozen places where a well-directed bullet might have taken you off.
Assassination of public officers is not an American crime. Goodbye, gentlemen. Come along, Hay.
Goodbye, Mr. President. Who is with Lee? Only one of his staff, sir. Dennis, let us know directly General Lee comes. Yes, sir. Well, Meade, it's been a big job. Yes, sir. We've had courage and determination. We've had wits to beat a great soldier. I'd say that to any man. But it's Abraham Lincoln, Meade, who has kept us a great cause clean to fight for. It does a man's heart good to know he's given victory to such a man to handle. Have a drink, Meade? No? You know, Meade, there were fools who wanted me to oppose Lincoln for the presidency. General Lee is here, sir. Meade, will General Lee do me the honor of meeting me in here? Where the deuce my hat, Dennis, my sword? Yes, sir. General Lee, sir. Sir, you have given me occasion to be proud of my opponent.
I have not spared my strength. I acknowledge its defeat.
You have come, General Lee,
to ask upon what terms you will accept surrender. Yes.
They are simple. I hope you will not find them ungenerous. Here they are.
You are magnanimous, sir. May I make one submission?
It would be a privilege if I could consider it.
You allow our officers to keep their horses, General Grant. That is gracious. Our cavalry troopers' horses also are their own.
I understand. They'll be needed on the farms. It shall be done.
I thank you. I accept your terms.
My friends, I am touched, deeply touched, by this mark of your goodwill. After 4 dark and difficult years, we have achieved the great purpose for which we set out. I have but little to say at this moment. I claim not to have controlled events, but confess plainly that events have controlled me. But as events have come before me, I have seen them always with one faith. We have preserved the American Union. We have abolished a great wrong. The task of reconciliation, of setting order where there is now confusion, of bringing about a settlement at once just and merciful, and of directing the life of a reunited country into prosperous channels of goodwill and generosity, will demand all our wisdom, all our loyalty. It is the proudest hope of my life that I may be of some service in this work. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations.
Good Friday, April 14th, 1865. In the morning, there was a cabinet meeting at the White House. Lincoln was in a happy mood. He told Grant and the cabinet of a dream he had dreamed, which had come to him several times before. In this dream, whenever it came, he was sailing in a ship of a peculiar build, indescribable but always the same, and being borne on it with great speed toward the dark and undefined shore. He had always dreamed this before a victory. He dreamed it before Antietam, before Murfreesboro, before Gettysburg, before Vicksburg. In the afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln drove together, and he talked to her of the life they would lead back in Springfield, Illinois, when this presidency was over. That night, Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln went to Ford's Theater. The theater was crowded. Many officers returned from the war were there and eager to see Lincoln. The play was Our American Cousin. A little after 8 o'clock, Mrs. Abraham Lincoln entered the official box with her husband and their guests following. Sometime after 10 o'clock, at a point in the play which no person present could afterwards remember, a shot was heard in the theater, and Abraham Lincoln fell forward upon the front of the box, unconscious and dying. He was carried to a house near the theater. His sons and closest friends were summoned. A dismal drizzle of rain was falling as the dawn came to Washington after a night of terror. In the streets, men stood in groups discussing the tragedy. Then at 7:30, the tolling of all the church bells in the town, and a hush in the streets. Lincoln was dead.
That cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Tonight, the Columbia Broadcasting System, through its affiliated stations coast to coast, and the network of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, has brought you a production of Abraham Lincoln by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air. The famous play by John Drinkwater was supplemented by many of Lincoln's speeches, excerpts from his debates, proclamations, letters, and accounts of his own private conversations. In the cast this evening were Ray Collins as General Grant, Ed Jerome as General Lee, George Coulouris as Hook, Joseph Holland as Seward, Carl Frank as Scott, Carl Swenson as Hay, William Allen as Dennis, Agnes Moorehead as Mrs. Lincoln, and Orson Welles as Abraham Lincoln. Bernard Herrmann conducted. Dan Seymour speaking. Davidson Taylor supervised for the Columbia Network. Next week at this same time, Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air will bring you Schnitzler's Viennese romance, The Affairs of Anatole.
Presenting Orson Welles as the Third Man. The Lives of Harry Lime. The fabulous stories of the immortal character originally created in the motion picture The Third Man, with zither music by Anton Karas.
Now, here's a little anecdote taking place in the city of Bordeaux. It has to do with a phase of my hectic career which was almost exclusively a chase. I was a big boy by then, but there's a school teacher in the story all the same. His name was Professor Saint-Pierre. He didn't mean any harm, but he caused me plenty before it was over.
And now, Orson Welles as Harry Lime, the third man in Blue Bride.
Now, this little cautionary tale took place a couple of years ago in the French port of Bordeaux. I'd taken lodgings above one of the choicest dives that the place has to offer. The proprietress was an enormous woman called affectionately by the sailors La Grosse Fifi, a formidable female if I ever saw one. I found the location a convenient base for certain of my business transactions. I'd circulated a rumor that I was writing a book about the waterfront. Unfortunately, Saint-Pierre got wind of it. Evidently, La Grosse Fifi mistook the little teacher for one of my clients and let him up. I was going over some accounts when there was a knock on my door. Who is it?
It is I, Professor Saint-Pierre from the lycée. I desire very much to speak with you.
Saint-Pierre? Who are you?
Please, it is of the utmost importance. I will not take up much of your time.
Okay. What is it?
Those papers on your desk. Notes for your book, no doubt.
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, they are. I'll just gather them up and put them away.
Oh, no, please. I do not mean to interrupt your work, mon cher Dr. Lime. I have long thought that some scholar should write a book on the waterfront of our beloved Bordeaux. Such a wealth of material, the mixture of dialects, the different racial strains, the songs and stories of the sailors. I cannot tell you how happy I am that someone like yourself has the time to devote to this project.
Well, that's very kind of you, I'm sure.
Dr. Lime, with all the deference to a scholar like yourself, I must make a confession. I am only a humble teacher, but for many years I have dreamed of doing just what you are engaged in.
Really?
I wanted to write a book about the waterfront of Bordeaux.
Well, why don't you?
I have neither the time nor the money. All winter I must teach at the lycée, and during the summer months I act as a tutor to make a little extra.
Oh, you do, yes.
I would like you to have the use of these notes of mine here. I have them in my briefcase, many hundreds of pages. You see, language is my speciality, and I have noted down specimens of all the different dialects to be found here.
I see.
I would like you to have them here.
Well, I'm very indebted to you, Professor.
Professor Saint-Pierre. Here is my card.
Thank you. I'll return your notes when I finish with them. And now I hate to seem rude.
Of course,
Professor
I understand. You are anxious to get on with your work. What is that noise? It seems to be coming from overheads.
Sounds like someone on the roof. Making repairs, I guess.
It seems strange to be making repairs at night. Are you sure it is?
Yes, it's nothing to worry about, old man. Now, good night, Professor Saint-Pierre. You really must excuse me.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
There is just one more thing. I hesitate to mention it. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
The professor jumped out of the way just in time. The body of a man half fell, half jumped into the room, landing crumpled at our feet. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Qu'est-ce que c'est? Who is this man?
It's one of the workmen around the place. I'm afraid he's been hurt.
Yes, there is blood on his head.
I think we should get a doctor. I wonder if you could...
Yes, a doctor, of course. I will go right away.
That's very, very good. I'll do what I can for him in the meantime.
Yeah,
Thanks very much,
quick.
old man. Good. Now, get up, you fool. You're not hurt. Roll, you hear me?
When I ran, they shot at me.
Are you hit?
No, but
just
my
a
head...
cut from the glass. We'll fix it later. You'll live. Not that you deserve to. Fifi, viens ici.
Que voulez-vous, monsieur?
Come up here.
Oui, chérie?
Raoul's in here. Had a little accident.
But how did he? Oh, the skylight. You will pay for the glass.
Yes, I'll pay for the glass.
He's dead?
No, he's not dead, only resting. Now, here's what I want you to do for me. You know that little man who just left here?
Oui, the little one.
Yes, he's coming back in a few minutes, and you are not to let him in here. Do you understand?
Oui, monsieur, I understand.
Good.
If he tries to come up again, I will crack a bottle over his head.
Fifi, I adore you. All right, Raoul, now tell me what this is all about. Did anyone follow you?
Yes, but I lost them 6 blocks away. I was afraid of the streets, so I took to the roofs. I had to hide somewhere, so I came here.
You picked a fine time. What happened? Did you get into another fight? I told you, old man, any more brawling, and our deal is off.
This time it was no fight. Barras knows about us.
Barras? Commissar of Police. How could he know? Talk, you fool. Talk!
Please, monsieur, do not shake me, my head.
You'll be worse off if you don't tell me. How do you know Barras knows? Are you sure?
Oui, I'm sure. I passed 45,000 franc notes myself. We have so many. Oh, no, please. It's that little Marianne. She kept wanting me to buy her.
Idiot, I gave you orders that none of that money was to be used in France.
But for a man to carry that much money around and not to be able to use just a little, I never thought. And today the shopkeeper turned in an alarm, and before I knew it, I am being chased.
Listen, old man, another stunt like this, and the police won't have to chase you. Now get out. I'll call you when I want you. Go over and wash the blood off. Barras, the only man I really was scared of in the whole city of Bordeaux. Barras, the young, dynamic commissar of police. He had a reputation for tenacity and integrity, which made jobs like mine very far from easy. You see, I was in competition with the French government. We were both printing money. I was selling my currency to sailors and traders on the way to French West Africa, where chances of detection were much less. In a few days, I had an appointment with a trader on his way down there, which promised to be my biggest deal. But how much did this man Barras know? I had to find out. I made some inquiries. I can't understand how a girl like you can be satisfied to be just a maid. Why, with your looks and intelligence and personality, you should be on the stage.
Oh, on the stage?
On the stage.
No, I will tell you one thing, Harry. If I were on the stage, I would be better than she ever was. I never saw her, but to hear her talk sometimes, you would think she was greater than Yvonne Printemps.
Who's this?
Her, my mistress, of course. Madame Sophie Barras.
Is she an actress?
Well, she was before she married Monsieur Barras. She went by the name of Sophie Avant. But if you ask
How
me...
long have you worked for Madame Barras?
Only since she was married 2 months ago.
Only 2 months ago. Then she's still a bride.
Oh, not a very happy one. Sometimes I do feel sorry for her. It is terrible.
Well, Pauline, what's terrible? Does he beat her?
No, he does nothing. All the time, it is work, work, work. That is what she said to him last night. I heard them as I was clearing the table.
What? That's all I ever hear.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling.
We never go anywhere together. Half the time, we do not even dine together. Is this the way you treat your bride? Sometimes I'm not even sure that you love me.
Ah, no, Sophie, this is not fair. Would I have married you if I did not love you?
You see, you are raising your voice to me already.
But I am only trying to tell you that I must have loved you or I would not...
How you speak in the past. This means you no longer love me in the present.
Oh, but I do, my little one. Come here.
Georges.
Now, do you believe me?
Mais oui, Georges. Georges?
Yes, my sweet.
Perhaps we could go somewhere this evening. Somewhere with music and just a few people, and then walk home slowly together, just as we used to walk last spring in Paris.
Oh, I wish we could, but I have to go over some reports.
Now you make me angry.
Oh.
You think you can set my mind at ease with only one kiss? A kiss that does not take up more than a few seconds of your official time.
No, Sophie, you've got to try to understand. There are some things which I cannot entrust to anyone else, and this is one of them. A vicious ring of counterfeiters has evidently descended on Bordeaux. We almost got him in today, but he disappeared down near the waterfront. But next time we will not fail. Meantime, I must try to trace the bills to their source.
This is all very well, but it seems to me that you are more concerned with your work than you are with your poor wife.
Oh, you refuse to understand.
You also refuse to understand. You even refuse to tell the truth. You say you love me and you want to be with me, and then you...
Oh, I don't want to hear anymore. I am going to the office.
Oh, Georges.
Harry. I hope you never treat me like this.
Don't worry about that, Jolie.
You do not find this a depressing marriage?
No, I can't say that I do. In fact, I find it quite inspiring. You have a good ear, Pauline, old girl. I could almost hear them talking.
Well, listening is the only thing that makes it interesting to be a maid.
You know, you're a very bright girl, even brighter than I thought. Supposing I put you and your packages into a cab from here. Taxi!
Oh, but maids do not ride in cabs.
Oh, they do when they have money. Here, close your warm little hand around this.
Oh, Harry. So much.
Not as much as you deserve. Au revoir, my dear. Keep those pink little ears open, and tomorrow, if you have some information for me, I'll give each one of those pink little ears a little kiss.
Oh, Harry.
Orson Welles returns in just a moment as the third man. And now, Orson Welles, as the third man, continues with The Blue Bride.
Back at Le Trois Rois, Fifi told me that a gentleman was waiting in the back room. This proved to be the venerable blackguard who went by the aristocratic name of Captain Dominique de Chateaubriand. Captain is engaged in trade with the natives of French West Africa, and it was on him that I hoped to unload a large amount of my counterfeit stock.
Ah, Monsieur Lime. Enchanté de vous voir.
Enchanté. What can I do for you, Captain?
As you know, I am dealing with some natives in the interior. Some missionaries have told them the value of their merchandise, which I used to buy for next to nothing. Now they want cash in return for their goods and ivory. If your money is as good as I hear it is, they will be quite happy with it. Until they try to spend it, of course. But by that time, I will be well out of the way.
Clever man.
You agree with me, Monsieur Lime?
Entirely. I shall be happy to be of service.
Bon. What is your denomination?
Well, that sounds like a personal question.
I mean, how large are the counterfeit bills?
5,000 franc notes.
May I see one, please?
Sure. I have one here.
Ooh, very good. Good enough for the purpose, anyway.
How many will you need?
I will need at least 50,000 of these notes.
Oh, that's a lot of money, Captain. It's more than I have with me, in fact, but I can get the rest from my source in Paris if you can wait a week or so.
Yes, I can wait. If you will guarantee to have it here within a week. And at a regular rate.
Agreed.
Très bien, monsieur. Au revoir, monsieur.
Au revoir, Captain. With this big deal in the offing, it became necessary to throw Barras off the trail for at least a week or so. For the next morning, I found out from my little friend Pauline that Madame Barras spent most of her lonely afternoons sitting by herself in a small cafe known as La Vert Rouge. That afternoon, I happened to be sitting in La Vert Rouge when she arrived. So I went over to a table and tipped my hat. Pardon, but are you not Madame Sophie Avant of the stage?
Why, yes, monsieur, I am. But how did you know my name?
I've often admired your work. Yes. But alas, I never had the courage to come backstage and meet you much as I wanted to.
Well, this is marvelous. To find someone who actually remembers my name and face.
But it's not a face to forget easily, Mademoiselle Avant.
I am Madame now, Monsieur. Madame Barras.
I beg your pardon, I did not know.
Oh, that's quite all right. Won't you sit down?
Well, just a minute, yes, if I'm not intruding.
Now, tell me, what shows did you see me in?
First, let me ask you a question, if you'll forgive me. What are you doing in Bordeaux? You, whom I always imagine surrounded by the bright lights and all the gaiety of Paris.
I came here with my husband. This is his home.
Oh, I see.
He is a commissaire of police of Bordeaux.
You don't say. Must be a very interesting job.
For him it is interesting. For me it is dull.
Oh, I don't quite follow.
I have no right to talk this way to a stranger.
But don't forget that I am a stranger who has known you and been interested in you for a long, long time.
Oh, it is not fair to burden you with my troubles, but today I am, how you say, blue.
Oh, a blue bride, eh? Well, if I can help in any way.
Oh, monsieur, I'm so unhappy. I do not know what to do or where to turn.
Are you sure your husband loves you, madame?
Oh, yes, I'm sure of that. And I know I love him, but unless something is done right away, the marriage will not last.
Does it mean enough to you to try to save it?
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, you're young and beautiful. You should be able to lure any man away from his duty.
But my husband is not any man, monsieur.
Nonsense, nonsense. All you lack is confidence. You need to feel more sure of yourself. And believe me, madame, you have every right to.
But what can I do?
It seems to me that the only hope for both of you is to get away from Bordeaux for a while. Away from everything that reminds him of his work. Surely he has competent assistants to whom he could turn things over for at least a week or so.
I don't see how I can get him to come away. We have even had to postpone our honeymoon last spring because he was so busy.
Well, then there's your answer. A honeymoon trip. And the sooner the better.
But I know he won't leave his work, especially right now.
He will if you force the issue once and for all. And if his marriage means anything to him.
What do you mean, force the issue?
I mean, suppose you packed your bags. We're ready to leave, with or without him. Tell him if there's no honeymoon, you're on your way back to Paris for good. In a day or so, you and your husband will be enjoying a nice little cruise somewhere, believe me.
That sounds wonderful. How I wish it could come true.
Well, it can come true. If only you won't lose your courage.
But I don't really want to leave him, even if he will not do what I want.
But you've got to make him believe that you would actually leave.
Do you think I can?
My dear Sophia, you are an actress, are you not?
Of course I am.
Of course you
I'll do it. I'll do it this very evening. Oh, monsieur, I can't tell you how grateful I am to you.
No, please.
And now I must go home and make preparations.
Look out, it started to rain again. Do you have an umbrella?
Oh, no, I ran out of the house without one.
Here, take mine.
Oh, no, I couldn't.
I insist.
Oh, thank you, monsieur. You are a true friend. Au revoir.
Au revoir, madame. And I wish you both much happiness. My plans were going well. The next morning, Pauline told me that Monsieur and Madame Barras had suddenly decided to take a little trip. They were leaving the next day for a week or so. Believe me, I breathed a sigh of relief. The day after their scheduled departure on their overdue honeymoon, I got a wire from Paris. I was to pick up a shipment of money from a carrier who would arrive shortly at the airport. So I met the carrier, picked up the suitcase full of phony 5,000-franc notes, and hailed a cab. Sailed past. I tried another, no luck. I started to walk back toward the city. I didn't know at the time that in a black police limousine not far away, a conversation something like this was going on.
Oh, Georges, I'm so happy. Soon we'll really be alone together.
I must confess, I am not sorry you forced me into this position. I am happy myself. This little vacation will be so good for us both.
Oh, there he is.
There, who is?
It is he, the kind gentleman from the cafe. I don't even know his name, but we owe everything to him.
But I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, please, George, let's stop. I must speak to him for just a moment.
You mean the man with the suitcase?
Yes.
But he's going in the other direction.
Slowly, take a minute. We have time. Oh, please, George, it means so much to me. Have the driver turn around and follow him.
Oh, I don't know what feminine madness this is, but today I can refuse you nothing.
Oh, it's not madness. I just want to say a few words with him and return a piece of his property. Pauline put it among your things by mistake.
All right. Duclos, turn around and follow the man with the suitcase.
Call him. Maybe he'll stop.
Hey, you with the suitcase, stop.
Oh, he's only walking faster. Oh, can't we get through this traffic somehow?
The sooner the better. Duclos, turn on the siren.
When I heard the voice shouting at me to stop, I could only think of getting away, naturally. And then when I heard the siren, that was the end. I turned a corner quickly and started to run. After all, when one is carrying a fortune in counterfeit bills in a police car with a siren is close behind, I cut across a little park. To get to the other side in time, I might be able to throw them off. But just then, I ran smack into a little man in a white suit. The heavy bag I was carrying threw me off balance for a minute, long enough for him to grab me by the lapels. With a broad smile, I saw to my dismay that it was the ever-helpful Professor St. Pierre.
Ah, Dr. Lime, how fortunate that I should run into you.
Yes,
Although
yes.
it was really you who ran into me, huh? That is a joke.
Yes, a very funny joke. I'm in a hurry. I'm awfully
But
sorry.
I want to ask you about that poor workman who fell through the roof the other night. How is he?
It's
what about
fine.
his family? If I could be of any
Thank you.
financial help to them, or
No,
if there is anything I can do for you.
You can get out of my way.
Dr. Lime, I am surprised at you. I know you are a busy man, but...
I pushed him roughly out of my way and ran on. But valuable seconds had been lost. I reached the other side of the parking. I called, taxi! Taxi! A long black car rounded the corner. I recognized it in time and started to run again. I ran up the steps of a large building. I realized it was the public library and decided to seek refuge there, but the weight I was carrying made me trip on one of the stone steps, and I lost my balance, and the suitcase went flying, skinned my knee, and my palms of my hands were all bruised. An old man insisted on helping me to my feet, fussing over me. The suitcase had rolled down the steps. The old man chased it. I couldn't wait. The only thing in my mind at the moment was escape. I have an aversion to French jails. I ran up to the big brass doors at the top of the steps. Just as I reached the entrance, a uniformed guard was stretching a metal grill work across it. He was most polite.
Sorry, monsieur, but library hours are over for today. You will have to wait until tomorrow.
I ran down the steps again. In a cold sweat, I hurried into the street, heard the shriek of brakes, and I'd been narrowly missed by a truck. I hurried on, ran smack into the arms of a traffic policeman. The gendarme held my arm firmly and stopped the truck to bawl out the driver.
What's the matter with you? Didn't you see this man? You almost killed him.
But officer,
His signals were against you, not against him. You're a menace to pedestrians. This poor man here. Let me see your
please,
license.
officer, it's quite all right.
Begging your pardon, monsieur, but I am here to protect your rights.
very
These
kind of
fellows
you.
must be taught a lesson.
So I was forced to stand there with a policeman in the middle of the busy street while he upbraided the driver. The siren grew closer and closer. When the gendarme finally released me and I reached the other side of the street, another whistle blew.
Hey, hold that man. Monsieur Berard.
In a flash, I felt the gendarme's hand on my arm again, and we were standing beside the big black police car.
Well, sir, you gave us a merry chase. What was all the hurry?
Why did you run away, monsieur?
You?
Yes, it is I, whom you advised in the cafe, you remember?
Oh.
I saw you from the car and I wanted to say thank you and give you this, your umbrella.
My umbrella?
Yes, you lent it to me that day.
Oh.
Now perhaps you will explain your anxiety to avoid us,
Well, this is very embarrassing, really, especially since this is a police car. You see, it was the siren. I have a phobia about sirens. Ever since I was a child and had to run from a burning house, I've had this same unreasoning fear. No matter how much I analyze it, it's something I just can't control. I have to run. Yes, I feel like a fool, but that's the way it is. Every time there's a fire in the neighborhood, I have one of these same running fits. All sirens sound alike to me, you see.
I see.
How unfortunate.
What is this? What happens here?
Professor St. Pierre.
I saw you from the other side of the street, and I came over to see what was the matter.
Very kind of you.
Commissaire Barra.
Bonjour, Saint-Pierre. Do you know these men?
Indeed, I do. This is Dr. Lime, the scholar who is here in Bordeaux doing research for a book.
Oh, yes, that's right, yes.
An eccentric scholar.
Yes, eccentric
All
scholar.
scholars
Yes,
are
yes.
eccentric.
Well, perhaps you are right.
This was a stroke of luck. For once, the helpful professor really helped. He continued to talk to Barra about me until the policeman's suspicions abated. I was finally able to say my goodbyes and start walking away from the group when Sophie Barra called after me.
Monsieur, you had a suitcase.
I must have dropped it.
Oh, well, wait. We will help you to find it.
No, don't bother. I'll get it.
Harry Lime returns in just a moment. And now, Harry Lime.
By this time, I was running again. I glanced back over my shoulder just in time to see the old man gesticulating excitedly over the suitcase and holding up a fat packet of franc notes. I can imagine that Barras' fury, when he realized that he let the prize slip through his fingers, was equaled only by Sophie's when she realized the identity of her friendly family counselor. I wonder whether she ever got her honeymoon. I heard the siren again in a few seconds, but this time I made good my head start. And as the sun sank over the sea, I bade farewell to beautiful Bordeaux, to my beautiful little waterfront business, and to the beautiful blue bride.
Good evening. This is Orson Welles just saying hello before the show starts. This is your radio almanac for March 8th. The moon entered Virgo this morning. The moon in Virgo is a nice, sociable sign, friendly and helpful, like the man who sells you your mobile gas. Prudence Pratt, I think we've got a minute for a household hints.
The white of an egg and a few drops of lemon juice will enable you to whip coffee cream. Doesn't taste very good, though.
Thank you, Prudence Pratt. And now our Wonders of Science Department, Colonel P. Bristle.
Chicle, which comes from the equatorial jungles, is the basis of all chewing gum. To prevent chewing gum from becoming matted in the eyebrows, stop blowing such big bubbles.
Welcome, one and all, to the sign of the Flying Red Horse.
Tonight and every week at the same time, over these same stations, the makers of mobile gas and mobile oil bring you Orson Welles.
Good evening, good evening. Tonight we present, let's see, what do we present? Where's my secretary, Miss Grimmett?
You needn't snap at me. You know I can always go back to driving rivets.
Yes, but why should you strain yourself? They have machines for that now, you know. Let's forget the entire incident. I wish it had never happened. Who's our guest this evening?
Lucille Ball.
Oh, that's right. She'll be over later. She would have been here now, but she's working on an income tax blank. Can you imagine the government wants Lucille Ball to fill out her form? Anything else?
Yes, there are 3 feeble-minded young ladies out here, the Orson Welles Swoon Club.
Feeble-minded. They're not feeble-minded.
They swoon when they see you, don't they?
Yes.
I rest my case.
Well, rest it in the outer office and send them in.
Okay, girls, Swoon Bait will see you now.
There he is, Wellsy. In the flesh.
Members of the Orson Welles Swoon Club, I bid you welcome. Very nice swooning, girls. But I must remind you that the function of the Swoon Club is to follow the chosen one at all times. Where were you last Thursday night at 11 o'clock?
At Grumman's Chinese Theater.
Oh?
Picketing the Academy Award Committee. They didn't give you an Oscar.
Oh, I don't mind. I'd sooner they gave it to some of the less experienced players who need the encouragement. Furthermore, where were you on Friday? I came out of the Players Club expecting an ovation, girls swooning at my feet, and what happened? A dog bit me.
That was me. I got excited.
Oh, what we need is more members.
Yeah, I know a girl I might talk into joining the club.
Oh, fine, bring her around.
I can't.
Why not?
They never let her out of the cage.
Well, there must be some way to get new members. Perhaps if we gave out some marvelous prize or premium. Nylon baby socks, Bobby socks, I guess that is. Bobby socks. For me, it's booby socks or something. Now, I've got it. An autographed photograph. How would this go, girls? An autographed photograph of me. By the way, Aggie, did you get that new picture I sent you?
Yes, I put it up over my bed like you told me. Oh, Orsie, you look wonderful in a sarong.
What's sarong? I never had a picture taken in a sarong. That must be Dorothy Lamour you have.
I thought it was funny, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby kissing you. Don't worry, Orsie.
And don't you feel bad about not getting an Academy Award?
Yeah, Wellsy, here's a little present we brought you. We knitted it ourselves.
Oh, girls, you shouldn't have done it. It's a lovely knitted tie. But what's this bump on the end of it?
That's the big toe. It started out to be a pair of socks.
All right, girls, run along now. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, Master.
Miss Grimmett.
You called?
Yes, Miss Grimmett. Have you notified Miss Ball we're expecting her?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, fatso.
That's better. We must have discipline around here.
The Hotel Carlton has been calling you all week. They're suing you.
The Hotel Carlton suing me? What for?
You did a magic show in their ballroom, and the rabbits you produced did a lot of damage.
I only produced 2 rabbits. Couldn't they round them up?
No, they're short-handed.
Well, why didn't they enlarge their staff?
They did, but so did the rabbits.
Well, I'll try and straighten the matter out with them. The Hotel Carlton, get me that, please. Perhaps if I rent a suite of rooms, they'll drop their suit, and Harry Esmond will dial it on the phone.
Here's your party.
Hello?
Good morning. Carlton Rabbit Farm. If it eats lettuce, we have it.
isn't this the Carlton Hotel?
Formerly the Carlton Hotel. Now we're in the rabbit business.
Well, this is Orson Welles. I feel I've done you people an injustice with my rabbit show, and to make up for it, I'd like to rent a suite of rooms at your establishment.
One moment, please. Hello? Sorry, we can't give you a room.
Did you tell the management for Orson Welles?
Yes?
What'd he say?
Nothing. Just keeps staring at me with his big pink eyes.
Miss Grimmett, Lucille Ball is our guest tonight. Have the florist send her 24 roses, please.
Roses? Vallisneria spiralis?
Thought it'd
Good
be thoughtful.
heavens, are you out of your mind? How about something of the genus Malva rotundifolia corniculatus, commonly known as Senetia vulgaris?
Definitely not.
Why?
I don't know. It sounds dirty. Sound dirty to Louis Titterton, I know. He's the censor, Louis Titterton. Of course, if you had a name like Louis Titterton, anything would sound dirty. Louis Titterton sounds dirty. Let's get back to the script. Look, just run down to the florist. Run down to the florist and get a bunch... Run down to the florist and get a bunch of the genus Magnesius perhuvus pragocarcus.
For Miss Ball?
Yes, and what's wrong, please, with Magnesius perhuvus pragocarcus?
Nothing. But do you think she'll like stinkweed?
Well, then you pick something out.
Oh, I forgot. Here's a package that came for
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Flowers from Lucille Ball. Open them up, Miss Grimmett. What kind are they?
Magnesius perhuvus pragocarcus?
I know.
Stinkweed.
And
one more thing. There's
Yes?
a man from the reducing salon here to see you.
What? Send him away. It's just propaganda. I won't see him.
Oh, bonjour,
What are you
bonjour,
laughing
bonjour,
at?
bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Monsieur Wells, n'est-ce pas?
Yes?
Are your hands clean?
Yes?
My card. Never mind, I will read it to you. Presenting Jacques-François Louis-Philippe Pepe Moishe de Champagne.
How do you do?
How would you like to have an estimate on a new body, eh? We give you complete renovation.
I do not need complete renovation.
Oh, let me look you over. Ooh la la, you are one big fellow.
Certainly I'm one big fellow. What do you think I was, two little ones?
Allons, we take out the tape measure. We measure the chest. 40 inches. Take a deep breath, please. Chest expanded, 39 and a half.
Well, I expand from the inside. I'm no show-off.
Hips.
No.
Hips have to tie two tape measures together.
Nonsense.
No. You cannot argue with me. I know if a person is too heavy. I've not worked 15 years for nothing in Bullock's basement. I am the girdle coordinator.
Girdle coordinator? What's that?
If a size 44 tries to get into a size 38, I help push.
Sure, you must leave the ladies breathless.
Folks, the Mobile Gas Mathematics class is now in session. My subject? Fractions. Not the grade school kind, the gasoline kind. Gasoline for automobiles is made by blending light and heavy fractions. The light, which spark up first, are there for snappy start. The heavy fractions bring you mileage. Since Pearl Harbor, more and more of these lighter elements have gone to fuel our fighting planes. So driving's different these days. Yes, in every way. Your gasoline, your speed, the length of trips you take. Now, the makers of Mobile Gas want you to get the best results from wartime driving. Here are tips to help you. 1, warm up a chilly motor 30 seconds before driving. 2, don't jam down on your accelerator. Press it gently. 3, drive a moderate speed, neither race nor crawl. 4, keep your battery in condition to turn your engine over quickly. And finally, switch to Mobile Gas for mileage. This famous gasoline is packed with every wartime mile it's possible to give you. Mobile Gas in 1944 is giving all the mileage that it gave in peacetime. Can you beat that? Brother, you cannot. So drive in, get friendly with your friendly Mobile Gas dealer. Trade your coupons for America's favorite gasoline, Mobile gas at the sign of the Flying Red Horse.
Thank you, John McIntyre. Ladies and gentlemen, your radio almanac brings you now a little music, but first, here's a last-minute bulletin from Dr. Snake Oil.
If a fishbone becomes lodged in a person's throat, turn him upside down and slap him on the shoulder blades. Caution, in an upside-down position, a person's shoulder blades are not where you think they'd be.
Well, Lud, that was, of course, you recognized it, Besame Mucho. Lud Gluskin playing it. Extraordinary name, Lud Gluskin, isn't it? Sounds like an unborn burp. Back to our script. And here's our guest of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. An enthusiasm I know you share with me, Miss Lucille Ball.
Everybody. Hello, Orson.
Lucille, we're very happy to have you back with us in the Mercury Theater, and I'd like to tell you that for the occasion, I've written a sketch which is just full of romantic love scenes.
Oh, good. Who have you got to play it with me?
Well, out there. Oh, seriously, Lucille, I trust you were joking. We could be a sensation on the radio. I can just hear the announcer saying, "The makers of Crunchies bring you Lucille Ball and Orson Welles. Friends, have you tried Crunchies for breakfast? Crunchies is that new crispy breakfast cereal that pops and snaps, crickles and crackles, wheezes and snorts. It makes a heck of a racket. But here's the real surprise. When you put Crunchies in a bowl and pour milk over them, they get soggy, spelled S-O-G-G-Y. And now the case of the blue blood stain, or it was too utter and McKinley. On with the play.
Mickey, darling.
Mm-hmm.
Mickey?
I just want to glance over the headlines, dear. Have you seen this?
No, what?
Man found in alley, stabbed, shot, poisoned, robbed, and hung. Police suspect foul play.
Oh, that's nice. This is your night off, dear. Stop playing detective.
All right. Go to bed.
Alone? My feet are cold.
I know.
Mickey, where were you last night?
Oh, Dora, don't be silly. You know how I feel about you. You're the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah, well, don't ever let me catch you with the other 7, bub.
Oh, well, I guess we might as well turn in.
Oh, Mickey, it's so nice to spend an evening like this. Lounge around in pajamas and then flop right into bed. It's so nice, dark and quiet. Mickey, scratch my back. Mickey, Is your circulation good? Your hand feels so cold. Mickey? Mickey?
What do you want, dear? I'm in here brushing my teeth. You say something, Dora?
I screamed.
Well, please don't. The neighbors will think I'm beating you again.
There's somebody in that bed and he's cold.
Well, throw another blanket on him, dear. Don't be inhospitable.
Mickey, I tell you, there's a man in that bed and it looks to me like foul play.
Well, it's probably not as serious as you think. Maybe he just died.
Then what's he doing in our bed?
Well, you know how difficult it is to find a room these days.
Well, the least you could do is turn the light on.
That's an idea. Here we are. Yep, there's a body, all right. Wonder whose it is.
Well, don't stand there. Do something.
This is strange, Dora. This fellow's got 18 knife wounds in him, and there are no holes in his shirt. What do you make of that?
Must have been an inside job.
Yeah, something of that kind. We can't leave him here. Give me a hand, Dora. Push his feet. It's a daisy. Well, what do we do now?
Let's go to sleep.
Oh, not with him lying there, dear. It's practically indecent.
I don't care. I'm sleepy.
Well, I suppose we could go to sleep and clear this up in the morning.
That's better. Did you hear that?
What?
That. Look, that closet door. It's opening.
Fine thing, a squeaky door on an oil program.
Mickey.
Yes?
Mickey, there's somebody in that closet. What's the matter? Scared to go in there?
Of course not. I'm not scared. I'm a detective. I must be brave. I must be strong. I must be courageous. I must be going. So long.
You come back here. Come back here. Mickey.
Yes?
You know that body we just took out of our bed?
Yes?
He brought a friend.
So he did. So he did. So he did. Someone, and I threw a rock through the window with a note on it. It says, keep your mouth shut and throw $1,000 out of the window or you'll never get another sound effect. No, excuse me. Keep your mouth shut and throw $1,000 out of the window or there'll be 4 bodies in your room.
$1,000. We haven't got $1,000.
Another rock with a note on it. It says, P.S. I'll settle for $950. Stay here, dear. I'm going to take a look in the kitchen.
Well, hurry back, dear. These two aren't much on conversation, you know.
Dora, come here quickly!
Mickey!
Dora!
What are you doing up on that chair? Did you see another body?
No, a mouse. Help me down, dear. That must be the murderer. Come in.
Pardon me, I was just passing...
I'll take that line again. That must be the murderer. Come in.
Pardon me, I was just passing the hall, and I heard you say you was going to move.
You should have kept moving, Pop.
We'd just like to sublet this apartment.
Say, darling, do you smell gasoline?
Yes.
I've solved the case. Stick 'em up, flat top.
No, you don't. I got you both covered. I'm going to let you both have it. Where do you both want it?
Look here, you're not going to shoot us in cold blood, are you?
He's not going to warm it up for us. Where's your patriotism? You can't shoot him.
Why not?
Don't you know the government's trying to save waste fats?
That does it.
Friends, try a bowl of crunchies. Crunchies topped off with delicious, luscious, fresh strawberries in cream. What a dish. You can get strawberries and cream. What do you want crunchies for? Crunchies. And now back to Mickey and Dora.
Darling, you've been hit. You're bleeding.
It's nothing.
I know, but we've just had the rug cleaned. Where's Flat Top?
Right there. I hit him on the head during the commercial. I also called the police. There you are, officer. There's your man.
I got him.
And incidentally, there are 2 corpses in the bedroom. Would you pick them up today, please?
I'm sorry, we only pick up on Fridays. OPA ruling, you know.
Friends, not long ago, we checked 10,000 cars, and what'd we find? 6 out of every 10 needed fresh oil. Now, neglect like that encourages burned bearings, worn-out cylinder walls, and wasted gasoline. It's not enough to have your crankcase full. The point is, are you sure that oil is clean? Do you think because you're making shorter trips at slower speeds you needn't change your oil so often? Boy, you're in reverse. Under these conditions, oil thins out, gets dirty faster, dust and sludge accumulate, engine parts corrode, get worn, and parts are almost irreplaceable today. So drive on into lubrication headquarters at the sign of the Flying Red Horse. Get your crankcase filled up full with fresh, clean Mobil oil, the world's best seller. Make this your motto. Fresh Mobil oil frequently.
And now we're going to hear from a young lady who always leaves the song better than it was before she found it. Miss Ella Mae Morse.
To you another day, shoo, 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 baby. Don't cry, baby. Bye, 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 baby. Your papa's off to the 7 seas, but he'll be back when the war is over. And we'll all be living in clover. He's off to the 7
Ladies and gentlemen, the serious side of your radio almanac is dedicated tonight to that solemn assumption upon which the peoples of the earth have erected their democracies. The immense premise that every man belongs to all men. This, I think, is nowhere better said than in the devotion of John Donne's I'm going to quote from. You'll recognize in it the source of a Hemingway title. I'm sure you'll hear in it the just resonance of truth. Nunc lentus sonitu dicunt morieris. Now this bell, tolling softly for another, says to me, thou must die. All mankind is of one author and is one volume. When one man dies, one chapter is not torn out of the book, but translated into a better language. And every chapter must be so translated. God employs several translators. Some pieces are translated by age, some by sickness, some by war, some by justice. But God's hand is in every translation. And his hand shall bind up all our scattered leaves again for that library where every book shall lie open one to another. And therefore, the bell that rings to a sermon calls not upon the preacher only, but upon the congregation to come. So this bell calls us all, who bends not his ear to any bell which upon any occasion rings, but who can remove it from that bell which is passing a piece of himself out of this world. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less.
as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or if thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Well, it's time to say good night now, everybody. Please join us again next Wednesday night. Until then, my sponsors, the makers of Mobile Gas and Mobile Oil, and all of us in the Mercury Theater, remain as always, obediently yours.
Makers of Mobile Gas and Mobile Oil invite you to listen in next week, same time, same station, to your Radio Almanac. Mr. Wells' guest is Charles Lawton. Lucille Ball appeared through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, producers of Broadway Rhythm. And Ella Mae Morse is soon to be seen featured in Universal's new Olson and Johnson comedy, The Ghost Catchers. John McIntyre speaking. CBS.
The Columbia Network takes pleasure in bringing you Suspense. Suspense, Columbia's parade of outstanding thrillers, produced and directed by William Spear and scored by Bernard Herrmann. The notable melodramas from stage and screen, fiction and radio, presented each week to bring you to the edge of your chair, to keep you in suspense.
Good evening. This is Orson Welles. I'm very happy I am to be back in the United States and back on the Columbia Network, even for so short a visit as this one. Back with old friends like Johnny Dietz, who is tonight's director, and Bernard Herrmann. The Mercury Theater presented tonight's radio play for the first time last year. We came right out then and hailed it as a classic of the medium. Nobody argued the point. A lot of people asked us to do it again, so it's gratifying to get the chance now and to find a favorite of ours in this distinguished anthology of spook shows. Personally, I've never met anybody who didn't like a good ghost story, but I know a lot of people who think there are a lot of people who don't like a good ghost story.
For the benefit of these, at least, I go on record at the outset of this evening's entertainment with the sober assurance that although blood may be curdled on this program, none will be spilt. There's no shooting, knifing, throttling, axing, or poisoning here. No clanking chains, no cobwebs, no bony and/or hairy hands appearing from secret panels, or, better yet, bedroom curtains. If it's any part of that dear old phosphorescent foolishness that people who don't like ghost stories don't like, then again, I promise you, we haven't got it. Not tonight. What we do have is a thriller. It's half as good as we think it is. You can call it a shocker. It's already been called a real Orson Welles story. Now, frankly, I don't know what this means. I've been on the air directing and acting in my own shows for quite a while now, and I don't suppose I've done more than half a dozen thrillers in all that time. Honestly, I don't think even that many, but it seems I do have a reputation for the uncanny. Quite possibly, a little escapade of mine involving a couple of planets, which shall be nameless, is responsible. Doesn't really matter. Don't think I disapprove of thrillers. I don't. A story doesn't have to appeal to the heart. It can also appeal to the spine. Sometimes you want your heart to be warmed, and sometimes you want your spine to tingle. The tingling, it's to be hoped, will be quite audible as you listen tonight to The Hitchhiker. That's the name of our story, The Hitchhiker. I'm in an auto camp on Route 66, just west of Gallup, New Mexico. If I tell it, perhaps it'll help me. Keep me from going crazy. I got to tell this quickly. I'm not crazy now. I feel perfectly well, except that I'm running a slight temperature. My name is Ronald Adams. I'm 36 years of age, unmarried, tall, dark, with a black mustache. I drive a 1940 Buick, license number 6Y175189. I was born in Brooklyn. All this I know. I know that I'm at this moment perfectly sane. That it's not me who's gone mad. It's something else. Something utterly beyond my control. I've got to speak quickly. At any minute, the link may break. This may be the last thing I ever tell on Earth. The last night I ever see the stars. 6 days ago, I left Brooklyn to drive to California.
Goodbye, son. Good luck to you, my boy.
Goodbye, Mother. Here, give me a kiss, and I'll go.
I'll come out with you to the car.
Oh, no, it's raining. Stay here at the door. Hey, what's this? Tears? I thought you'd promised me you wouldn't cry.
Oh, I know, dear. I'm sorry. But I do hate to see you go.
I'll be back. It'll only be on the coast 3 months.
Oh, it isn't that. It's just the trip. Ronald, I wish you weren't driving.
Oh, Mother, there you go again. People do it every day.
I know, but you'll be careful, won't you? Promise me you'll be extra careful. Don't fall asleep or drive fast or pick up any strangers on the road.
Oh, gosh. I think I was still 17 here, you told me.
Oh. And wire me as soon as you get to Hollywood. Won't you, son?
Of course I will. Don't you worry. There's nothing going to happen. It's just 8 days of perfectly simple driving on smooth, decent, civilized roads with a hot dog or a hamburger stand every 10 miles. I was in fine spirits. The drive ahead of me, even the loneliness, seemed like a lark. I reckoned without him. Crossing Brooklyn Bridge that morning in the rain, I saw a man leaning against the cables. He seemed to be waiting for a lift. There were spots of fresh rain on his shoulders. He was carrying a cheap overnight bag in one hand. He was thin, nondescript, with a cap pulled down over his eyes. I would have forgotten him completely, except that just an hour later, while crossing the Pulaski Skyway over the Jersey Flats, I saw him again. At least, he looked like the same person. He was standing now with one thumb pointing west. I couldn't figure out how he got there, but I thought probably one of those fast trucks had picked him up, beaten me to the Skyway, and let him off. I didn't stop for him. Then late that night, I saw him again. It was on the new Pennsylvania Turnpike between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh. It's 265 miles long with a very high speed limit. I was just slowing down for one of the tunnels when I saw him, standing under an arc light by the side of the road. I'd seen quite distinctly the bag, the cap, even the spots of fresh rain spattered over his shoulders. He hallooed at me this time. Hello! Hello! I stepped on the gas like a shot. It's lonely country through the Alleghenies, and I had no intention of stopping. Besides, the coincidences, or whatever it was, gave me the willies. Stopped at the next gas station.
Yes, sir.
Fill her up.
Certainly, sir. Check your oil, sir?
No, thanks.
Nice night, isn't it?
Yes. It hasn't been raining here recently, has it?
Not a drop of rain all week.
Oh? Oh, I suppose that doesn't done your business any harm.
Oh, people drive through here all kinds of weather. Mostly business, you know. There aren't many pleasure cars out on the turnpike this season of the year.
I suppose not. What about hitchhikers?
Hitchhikers here?
What's the matter? Don't you ever see any?
Not much. If we did, it'd be a sight for sore eyes.
Why?
Oh, guy'd be a fool who started out to hitch rides on this road. Look at it.
Then, you've never seen anybody?
No. Maybe they get the lift before the turnpike starts. I mean, you know, just before the toll house. But then it'd be a mighty long ride. Most cars wouldn't want to pick up a guy for that long a ride. And you know, this is pretty lonesome country here. Mountains and woods. You ain't seen anybody like that, have you?
No. Oh, no, not at all. It's just a technical question.
I see. Well, that'll be just $1.49 with the tax.
Gradually passed through my mind a sheer coincidence. I had a good night's sleep in Pittsburgh. I didn't think about the man all next day until just outside of Zanesville, Ohio, I saw him again. It was a bright, sunshiny afternoon. The peaceful Ohio fields, brown with the autumn stubble, lay dreaming in the golden light. I was driving slowly, drinking it in, when the road suddenly ended in a detour. In front of the barrier, he was standing. Let me explain about his appearance before I go on. I repeat, there was nothing sinister about him. He was as drab as a mud fence, nor was his attitude menacing. He merely stood there, waiting, almost drooping a little, the cheap overnight bag in his hand. He looked as though he'd been waiting there for hours. And he looked up. He hailed me. He started to walk forward.
Hello! Hello! Hello?
No, not just now. Sorry.
Going to California?
No, not today. The other way, going to New York. Sorry. After I got the car back on the road again, I felt like a fool. Yet the thought of picking him up, of having him sit beside me, was somehow unbearable. At the same time, I felt more than ever unspeakably alone. Hour after hour went by. Fields, the towns ticked off one by one. The light changed. I knew now that I was going to see him again. And though I dreaded the sight, I caught myself searching the side of the road, waiting for him to appear.
What do you want?
Sell sandwiches and pop here, don't you?
Yeah, we do in the daytime. But we're closed up now for the
I
night.
know, but I was wondering if you could possibly have a cup of coffee, black coffee. Just.
No, not this time of night, mister. My wife's the cook. She's in bed.
No, don't shut the door, please. Listen, just a minute ago. Just a minute ago, there was a man standing here right beside the stand, a suspicious-looking man. I don't mean to disturb it. You see, I was driving along when I just happened to look, and there he was.
What was he doing?
Well, nothing.
You've been taking a nip. That's what you've been doing. Now, on your way before I call out Sheriff Oates.
I got into the car again and drove on slowly. I was beginning to hate the car. If I could have found a place to stop, to rest a little. I was in the Ozark Mountains of Missouri now. A few resort places there were closed, only an occasional log cabin, seemingly deserted. That's all that broke the monotony of the wild, wooded landscape. I had seen him at that roadside stand. I knew I'd see him again. Maybe at the next turn of the road. I knew that when I saw him next, I would run him down. See him until late next afternoon. I stopped a car at a sleepy little junction just across the border into Oklahoma to let a train pass by. When he appeared across the tracks, leaning against a telephone pole. Perfectly airless, dry day. The red clay of Oklahoma was baking under the southwestern sun. Yet there were spots of fresh rain on his shoulders. I couldn't stand that. Without thinking, blindly, I started the car across the tracks. He didn't even look up at me. He was staring at the ground. I stepped on the gas hard, veering the wheel sharply toward him. I could hear the train in the distance now, but I didn't care then. Something went wrong with the car. The train was coming closer. I could hear its bell ringing and the cry of its whistle. Still, he stood there. And now I knew that he was beckoning me to my death. No. I frustrated him that time. The starter worked at last. I managed to back up. When the train passed, he was gone. I was all alone in the hot, dry afternoon. After that, I knew I had to do something. I didn't know who this man was or what he wanted of me. I only knew that from now on, I mustn't let myself alone on the road for 1 minute. Hello there. Like a ride?
Well, what do you think? How far are you going?
Where do you want to go?
Amarillo, Texas.
I'll drive you there.
Gee. You mind if I take off my shoes? My dogs are killing.
Go right ahead.
Oh, gee, what a break this is.
Hitchhike much?
Sure. Only it's tough sometimes in these great open spaces to get the break.
I should think it would be, though I'll bet you get a good pickup in a fast car. If you did, you could get places faster than, say, another person in another car, couldn't you?
I don't get you.
Well, take me, for instance. Suppose I'm driving across the country, say, at a nice, steady clip, about 45 miles an hour. Couldn't a girl like you just standing beside the road waiting for lifts beat me to town? Or any town, provided she got picked up every time in a car doing from 65 to 70 miles an hour?
I don't know. What difference does it make?
Oh, no difference. It's just a crazy idea I had sitting here in the car.
Oh, imagine spending your time in a swell car thinking of things like that.
What would you do instead?
What would I do? If I was a good-looking fellow like yourself, why, I just enjoy myself.
every minute of the time. I'd sit back and relax. And if I saw a good-looking girl along the side of the road... Hey, look out!
Did you see him?
See who?
A man standing beside the barbed wire fence.
I didn't see anybody. It wasn't nothing but a bunch of cows and a wire fence.
No?
What'd you think you was doing? Trying to run into the barbed wire
There's a man
fence?
there, I tell you. A thin gray man with an overnight bag in his hand. And I was trying to run him down.
Run him down? You mean kill him?
Say you didn't see him back there? You sure?
I didn't see a soul. As far as
Watch
that's concerned...
for him the next time and keep watching. Keep your eyes peeled on the road. He'll turn up again. Maybe any minute. There! Look there!
How does this door work? I'm getting out of here.
See him that time?
No, I didn't see him that time. And personally, mister, I don't expect never to see him. All I want to do is go on living. I don't see how I will very long, driving with you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me, but please don't go.
So if you'll excuse me...
You can't go. Listen, how would you like to go to California? I'll drive you to California.
Seeing pink elephants all the way? No, thanks. Thanks just the same.
Listen, please, just 1 minute, please.
You know what I think you need, big boy? Not a girlfriend. Just a good dose of sleep.
Please.
There. I got it now.
No, you can't go. Please, come
Keep your
back.
hands off me. Do you hear? Leave your hands off.
She ran from me. As though I were a monster. A few minutes later, I saw a passing truck pick her up. I knew then that I was utterly alone. It was in the heart of the great Texas prairies. There wasn't a car on the road after the truck went by. I tried to figure out what to do, how to get hold of myself. If I could find a place to rest, or even if I could sleep right here in the car for a few hours along the side of the road. I was getting my winter overcoat out of the back seat to use as a blanket when I saw him coming toward me, emerging from the herd of moving steer.
Hello?
Maybe I should have spoken to him then. Fought it out then and there. For now he began to be everywhere. Wherever I stopped, even for a moment, for gas, for oil, for a drink of pop, a cup of coffee, sandwich, he was there. I saw him standing outside the auto camp in Amarillo that night when I dared to slow down. I was sitting near the drinking fountain of a little camping spot just inside the border of New Mexico. He was waiting for me outside the Navajo reservation where I stopped to check my tires. I saw him in Albuquerque when I bought 20 gallons of gas. I was afraid to stop now. I began to drive faster and faster. I was in lunar landscape now. The great arid mesa country of New Mexico. I drove through it with the indifference of a fly crawling over the face of the moon. Now he didn't even wait for me to stop. Unless I drove at 85 miles an hour over those endless roads, he waited for me at every other mile. I'd see his figure, shadowless, flitting before me, still in its same attitude, over the cold, lifeless ground, flitting over dried-up rivers, over broken stones cast up by old glacial upheavals, flitting in that pure and cloudless air. I was beside myself when I finally reached Gallup, New Mexico this morning. There's an auto camp here. Cold, almost deserted this time of year. I went inside and asked if there was a telephone. I had the feeling that if only I could speak to someone familiar, someone I loved, I could pull myself together.
Your call, please.
Long distance.
Long distance, certainly. This is long distance.
I'd like to put in a call to my home in Brooklyn, New York. I'm Ronald Adams. The number is Beechwood 20828.
Certainly. I will try to get it for you. Albuquerque. New York for Gallup. New York. Gallup, New Mexico, calling Beechwood 20828.
I'd read somewhere that love could banish demons. It's the middle of the morning. I knew Mother'd be home. I pictured her tall and white-haired in her crisp house dress, going about her tasks. Be enough, I thought, just to hear the even calmness of her voice.
Will you please deposit $3.85 for the first 3 minutes? When you have deposited $1.50, will you wait until I have collected the money? All right, deposit another $1.50. Will you please deposit the remaining 85 cents? Ready with Brooklyn. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Mrs. Adams' residence.
Hello, Mother?
This is Mrs. Adams' residence. Who is it you wish to speak to, please?
What? Who's this?
This is Mrs. Whinney.
Mrs. Whinney? I don't know any Mrs. Whinney. Is this Beechwood 20828?
Yes?
Where's my mother? Where's Mrs. Adams?
Mrs. Adams is not at home. She's still in the hospital.
The hospital?
Yes. Who is this calling, please? Is it a member of the family?
Well, what's she in the hospital for?
She's been prostrated for 5 days. Nervous breakdown. But who is this
Nervous
calling?
breakdown? Well, my mother never was nervous.
It's all taken place since the death of her oldest son, Ronald.
Death of her oldest son, Ronald? Hey, what's this? What number is this?
This is Beechwood 20828. It's all been very sudden. He was killed just 6 days ago in an automobile accident on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Your 3 minutes are up, sir. Your 3 minutes are up, sir. Your 3 minutes are up, sir.
And so I'm sitting here in this deserted auto camp in Gallup, New Mexico. I'm trying to think. Trying to get hold of myself. Otherwise, I'm going to go crazy. Outside, it's night. The vast, soulless night of New Mexico. 1 million stars are in the sky. Ahead of me stretch 1,000 miles of empty mesa. Mountains, prairies, desert. Somewhere among them, he's waiting for me. Somewhere I shall know who he is and who I am.
So ends The Hitchhiker, and to Orson Welles our considerable thanks for his playing of the title role. Mr. Welles?
Help wanted. Men, women, and children. Nature of work, hard, monotonous, back-breaking labor. Hours, 75 a week minimum. Pay, few cents an hour. Added inducement, 2 meals a day, including several ounces of bad bread and a cup of thin soup. Don't delay. Apply at once. How'd you respond to a want ad like that, Mr. and Mrs. American working man and woman? You'd laugh, wouldn't you, and throw the paper in the trash basket. dismiss the whole advertisement as some kind of a joke, but believe me, it's no joke. It's a simple statement of the working conditions that exist today in Nazi Germany and the conquered countries under Nazi rule. It's also an exact statement of the working conditions that will be imposed on you and every member of your family if the Nazis win this war. You yourself personally can stop them from winning, as you know. You don't have to give up your well-paid job to do it. You needn't have to be a soldier or a sailor or an airman or a nurse or a war worker to ensure American victory. Uncle Sam doesn't ask plain, ordinary, hard-working citizens like you to give him anything. All he does ask very seriously and very urgently is that you loan him 10 cents out of every dollar you make. That's all there is to it. Lend Uncle Sam a dime to win this war, and he'll pay you back with interest when he's won it. The easiest, most convenient way to lend him these dimes is to enroll in the payroll savings plan. Just tell your boss to deduct 10 cents from every dollar he pays you and lend it to Uncle Sam in your name. Sign up for this simple savings plan today, and when victory comes, you will have war bonds in your pockets instead of Axis bonds on your wrists.
Suspense will be heard again 2 weeks from tonight. Next Wednesday night, September 9th, the Columbia Broadcasting System will present over many of these stations at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Wartime an address by W. Averill Harriman, the United States Lend-Lease Administrator in London. Mr. Harriman, as the personal representative of the President of the United States, attended the Moscow conferences between Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin. Next Wednesday's broadcast will be Mr. Harriman's first public address since his return to this country. Suspense is produced and directed by William Spear. John Dietz was our guest director this evening. Tonight's radio drama was written by Lucille Fletcher. The original score was by Bernard Herrmann. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Orson Welles, producer.
I am the Count of Monte Cristo, and the world is mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Campbell Playhouse brings you those famous lines again. Revives tonight for you the world's favorite romance. This is Orson Welles, speaking to you only after a low bow to the memory of Henry Miller and James O'Neill and all the rest of his betters who've played the wonderful, mysterious gentleman from Corsica before him. Of the author, of Alexander Dumas, who wrote Monte Cristo, there is no reasonable explanation. Dumas was a rich man. We note with interest that he went bankrupt in the theater. He was a revolutionary. His grandfather was a marquis. His grandmother was a negress. He was born as Napoleon became emperor. He died in poverty as the Germans marched into France. He wrote The Count of Monte Cristo as a newspaper serial. And shortly after the last installment, a ball and a bullfight were organized for him in Seville, and finally, in Algiers, the customs man let his baggage through without examination. Such things don't and can't happen today. But then neither does Alexander Dumas himself the wildest romance of a man who could and did openly maintain at 70 numerous establishments and a literary factory as well, whose quantitative output is equaled in the arts only by the fabulous studio of Rubens. There's a good story about what Dumas père told Dumas fils. Father, said the inventor of Camille, I have just read your latest book. Have you, my son, said Dumas père. What's it about? I'm not sure I have. It's no secret and no shame either that the Chateau Monte Cristo was haunted by many ghostwriters,
and that its owner signed his name to more books than anyone could ever write. It is not expected of Pharaoh that he build with his own hands his own pyramids. And the mere blueprint of one Dumas plot is an airtight alibi for a whole career. Of all these plots, out of question the most gloriously complex, as perfect as Watchworks, and as big as Pittsburgh among all others, one Dumas plot persists as the most ingenious, tall story ever perpetrated by the mind of man. God's vengeance on radio scriptwriters and your indestructible delight in spite of us. Here, then, is our humble 57 minutes worth of The Count of Monte Cristo. Just before we begin tonight's story, I want to confer the freedom of the microphone upon Ernest Chappell.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, just the other day I sat down in the dining car of a train. I glanced around the tables near me to see what others were having for dinner. Perhaps you've done the same thing now and then because it sort of gives you an idea, doesn't it? Well, of 16 men and women whose plates I saw there in the diner, 10 were eating chicken. Then I found my pencil writing on the order card, chicken. Right then and there, I said to myself again, it must be this liking so many of us have for chicken that accounts for the great popularity of Campbell's chicken soup. Because this soup is chicken, through and through, from its golden surface to the very bottom of the plate. Its broth fairly glistens with chicken richness. Its fluffy rice is steeped in chicken flavor. And there are tender pieces of chicken meat in it to further tempt your spoon. That's why I promise you that just as sure as you like chicken, you like Campbell's chicken soup. If you haven't tried it, why don't you? Perhaps at dinner tomorrow night. And now... Oh.
His Excellency, the Count of Monte Cristo.
Mercedes,
Yes, Fernand?
may I present the most talked of man in Paris, the Count of Monte Cristo, the Baroness Mondiego.
I am deeply honored.
Count of Monte Cristo.
What is it, Mercedes? Are you ill?
No. It's nothing, Fernand. Perhaps the heat of this room. Very kind of the Count to come here tonight. Will you give me your arm, Count Monte Cristo?
I am honored, madame.
Is it true, Count, what everyone is saying about you in Paris?
What are they saying, madame?
That you have seen so much, traveled so far, suffered so deeply.
I have suffered deeply, madame.
Now are you happy?
No doubt, since no one hears me complain.
Your present happiness, has it softened your heart?
My present happiness does not equal my past misery.
Are you not married?
I married? No, madame.
You're alone, then?
I am alone.
You have no sister, no father?
I have nothing.
How can you exist, though, with no one to hold you to life?
Madame, a long time ago, I loved a girl. I was on the point of marrying her, madame, when we were separated. I thought she loved me well enough to wait for me and even to remain faithful to my grave. When I returned, she was married. Perhaps my heart was weaker than that of most, and I suffered more than they would have in my place. That is all, madame.
And you still preserve this love in your heart? It's true we can love only once. Did you ever see her again?
Never.
You've forgiven her for all she made you suffer?
Yes. I have forgiven her.
Do you still hate those that separated you? Do you still want to punish them?
They will be punished, madame. But it is not I who will punish them. It is their own past. Rarely has European society been more intrigued than it was the winter of 1834, when the mysterious Count de Monte Cristo appeared in the city of Paris. It is time now that the world should hear his story. Of the title of this man, nothing was known that winter save that he derived it from a small and uninhabited island off the coast of Corsica.
The source of his fortune was equally obscure, and it seemed inexhaustible. The paintings in his house in the Champs-Élysées were valued at 7 million francs. His collection of precious stones far exceeded in value that of any of the crowned heads of Europe. Yet it was not his wealth alone that made him remarkable. At a dinner party that winter, a woman was heard to say that the Count of Monte Cristo had the look of a man who had been enclosed for a long time in a tomb. I heard her say it. For long years in solitary confinement sharpened the hearing. The look of a man, she said, who has been enclosed for a long time in a tomb. No man but I could know how truly the lady had spoken. If to live in darkness for 20 years, in darkness and silence, underground and alone, if this is to dwell in a tomb, then the Count of Monte Cristo had dwelt in a tomb. I alone can speak of these things, for I alone know the true name of the Count of Monte Cristo. It is mine. It is Edmond Dantes. The story of Edmond Dantes begins in 1814, the year the Emperor Napoleon was a prisoner in Elba. It begins with a wedding.
Who here answers to the name of Edmond Dantes?
Edmond Dantes, he's my son. What do you want of him?
Edmond Dantes, in the name of the law, I arrest you.
Arrest me? What have I done?
I cannot inform you. You'll be duly acquainted with the reason for your arrest at your first examination.
What's he done? Officer, he's done nothing wrong. He's my son. He's a good boy.
Edmond Dantes, you're under arrest. Follow me.
What is your name?
Are you the king's prosecutor, sir?
Yes.
My name is Edmond Dantes.
You will kindly give me all the information in your power. You have served under the usurper Napoleon?
No, sir.
Edmond Dantes, it is reported that your political opinions are extreme.
My political opinions? Alas, I never had any opinions. I'm hardly 20, sir. I was to be married today.
What do you make of this? It is a letter, Monsieur Dantes. Well, read it.
The king's prosecutor is hereby informed by friends of the throne and religion that one Edmond Dantes, mate of the ship Ferro, arrived this morning from Smyrna, having touched at Naples and the Isle of Elba. He has been entrusted by the usurper Napoleon with a letter to the Bonapartist committee in Paris. This letter will be found on his person, or at his father's, or in his cabin aboard the Pharaoh. Oh, sorry, sir, I don't understand it.
You know the writing?
No, sir.
Now, whoever wrote it writes well. Have you any enemies?
Not that I know of, sir.
Now, answer me frankly. Not as a prisoner to a judge, but as one man to another. Is there any truth in this accusation?
No, sir. I swear by my honor as a sailor,
Go on.
The day after we left Naples, when my captain lay dying, he gave me a package to be delivered on the island of Elba.
What did you do with it?
What should I have done? What every man would have done in my place. I sailed for the island of Elba. I delivered the packet and was given in return a letter to be delivered to a man here in Marseille. I did exactly what my captain told me to do, sir. I landed here yesterday. That's all, sir.
I see. Well, it sounds like the truth. Now, you give up this letter you brought from Elba and give me your word that you will appear at your call, and you may go back to your friends.
I'm free then, sir.
Yes, but first give me the letter.
Here you are, sir.
Very well. By the way, to whom were you to deliver this letter?
To Francois Noirtier.
Francois Noirtier?
Yes, sir. Why? You know this man.
A faithful servant of the king does not know conspirators. Have you shown this letter to anyone?
To no one, sir, on my honor.
No. No one knows that you are the bearer of a letter from the Isle of Elba, addressed to Francois Noirtier?
Nobody, sir, except the one person who gave it to me. Why, sir? What's the matter, sir?
You give me your word of honor that you are ignorant of the contents of this letter?
My word of honor, sir, but what's the matter? You're ill, sir. Can I help you?
No, stay where you are, Edmond Dantes. For me to give orders, not you. I am sorry. I am no longer able, as I had hoped, to restore you to liberty. Before doing so, there are formalities to be gone through. Yes, sir. I will try to make them as short as possible. Now, the principal charge against you, as you know, is this letter. You see what I do with it. You see, I destroy it. Now I confine it to the flames.
You for your goodness itself.
Now then, do you trust me?
Order me, sir, and I will obey.
Hey, listen. This is not an order, but advice that I give you.
Yes, monsieur.
I shall keep you until this evening, here, in the Palais de Justice.
Yes, sir.
Should anyone else question you, do not breathe a word of this letter.
I promise.
You see, the letter is destroyed. You and I alone know of its existence. So if they question you about it, deny all knowledge of it.
I will, sir.
It was the only letter you had?
Yes, it was.
I swear it.
I swear it.
Good. Now then, not a word to anyone, remember.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor. You will take this man to the guard room and hold him there. He is to see nobody, you understand? Nobody. Yes, sir. Follow this officer, Monsieur Dantes. Later, I will give him his orders.
Come to fetch me? Yes. By the order of the King's prosecutor? I believe so. Come with us. Where are you taking me?
You don't
For the love of heaven, where are we going?
You a native of Marseille and a sailor, and you don't know where you're going?
I've no idea.
Unless you're blind or have never been outside the harbor, you must
No.
look around you.
The prison. The Chateau d'If.
Quite right, my friend. The Chateau d'If.
Help, let me go. I'm innocent. I'm innocent.
Darcy. Haven't you slept?
I do not know.
Are you hungry?
I do not know.
You want anything?
I want to see the governor. The governor, do you hear me? I'm innocent. I'm innocent. I'm
Darcy. Well, are you reasonable today?
I want to see the governor.
I've told you that's impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Not allowed.
Why is it not allowed? I'm innocent.
Take my advice, my friend. Don't brood over what is impossible. You go out of your head.
Listen to me. I want to see the governor. If you don't let me see the governor someday, I'll hide behind the door, and when you come in, I'll dash out your brains with this stool.
Put on that stool.
Are you going to let me see the governor?
No, put on that stool. Put it down.
Well, do I see the governor?
Yes, we'll see the governor at once. At once. Sooner than you think. Corporal! Corporal of the guard! Halt! By the governor's order. Take this prisoner to the floor below.
The dungeon?
That's where we put our madmen. The dungeon.
What? Attention! I tell you, I'm innocent. What? I'm innocent! I'm innocent!
In darkness and silence, underground and alone. Every day, twice a day, morning and evening, the jailer came to my cell and put down the vile food and went away without speaking to me. My hair and nails had grown long, and my skin was white as a leper's. I'd been proud the first month. Now I began to beg. I begged to be moved from this dungeon to another. I begged to be allowed to walk around. I begged for books. Nothing was granted. I spoke to the jailer when he brought me my food. He rarely answered me. I tried to speak when alone, but the sound of my own voice terrified me. After what must have been 3 or 4 years, the governor of the Chateau d'If was transferred. The new man did not trouble to learn my name. I was no longer Edmond Dantes. I was number 37. I took to praying, but not as men pray in prosperity. In my prayers, I laid every action of my life before the Almighty. Still, I remained a prisoner. Then a deep gloom took possession of me, and then furious rage and savage thoughts of revenge, and wildly I dashed myself against the walls of my prison. I tore at my own flesh with my nails, and then I began to think of dying. I swore I would starve myself to death. So every morning and every evening, I threw out through the small grated window all the food the jailer brought me, At first gaily, then thoughtfully, then with regret. I held the plate in my hand for an hour at a time, gazing at the morsel of bad meat, a tainted fish, black and moldy bread. One day I found I had not sufficient force to throw my supper out of the window. The next morning I could hardly see or hear. I knew I was dying. The day went by. I felt a stupor creeping over me. The gnawing pain at my stomach had ceased and my thirst had abated. When I closed my eyes, I saw myriads of lights dancing before them. I was on the edge of that mysterious country called death. Suddenly, a little after dark, I heard a hollow sound in the wall against which I was lying. I sat up and listened. It was a continuous scratching, as if made by a huge claw, some iron instrument scraping against the stones. Then all was silent. Soon it began again. Nearer and more distinct. Perhaps it was only a workman repairing a neighboring dungeon. I'd soon find out. The sound continued. With my earthenware jug, I knocked against the wall where the sound came. Someone had heard me. Each time I knocked, the knocks were repeated on the other side of the wall. When I stopped knocking, the other also stopped. After that, there were no more sounds. The night passed in complete silence. I never closed my eyes. 3 days passed. 3 long days. And never a sound. At last, on the 4th evening, whoever it was quite close to me now. I wanted desperately to help him, but I had nothing, no knife or sharp instrument. I smashed my earthenware jug. That night I moved my bed from the wall and started to scrape the plaster with a piece of the broken jug. Soon the fragments of plaster began to fall away. In 3 days I uncovered a large stone. The next day about noon the stone began to move. Oh, my God! My God! My God, don't fail me now.
Who talks of God in this place?
Speak again! In the name of heaven! Speak!
Who are you?
A prisoner!
Of what country?
A Frenchman!
Your name?
Edmond Dantes!
How long have you been here?
Since the 28th day of February, 1815.
Your crime?
I'm innocent. And you? Who are you?
I am number 27.
How long have you been here?
Since 1804. 20 years.
All that night we worked. Then, just before dawn, a portion of the floor in my cell gave way, and from the bottom of this passage, the depth of which was impossible to measure, appeared the head, then the shoulders, and lastly, the body of a man. To this man, I owe all that I possess, all that I know, all that I've become. In the prison, he was known as the Mad Priest. I never learned his name. For 8 years, we saw each other every day, using the tunnel he had dug through the solid rock, concealing the mouth of the passage with stones carefully fitted in place. By the sundial he had traced on the wall of his cell, we knew the hours of the guard's visit. The rest of the day, we were together. He'd been a great scholar in his day, and all that he knew he taught me with infinite, loving patience, day after day, year after year. Then one morning, I came down. I found him standing in the middle of the cell, pale as death.
Quick, Dantes, quick. Listen to what I have to say.
What is it, Father? Tell me, I beseech you.
I'm dying. Help me to my bed.
Yes, Father.
You see, half of my body is paralyzed already.
There.
Careful.
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you, my son. Now listen to me. Yes, Father. All is over with me. This night or tomorrow, I will be dead.
Oh, but Father, you can't.
I know the illness. There is no hope. And I shall never leave this place now. Before I die, there's something I want to give you. Here. Look. It's just a burned piece of parchment. But, my child, it is my treasure. From this day forth, it belongs to you.
Your treasure?
Oh, yes. I know what is passing through your mind at this moment. Even now, you, like all the others. But be assured, my child, I'm not mad. This treasure exists. Have you ever heard of the great Sparta treasure?
The Sparta treasure? I've heard sailors talk of it.
For 10 years, I worked for the House of Sparta. That paper that you have in your hand is what is left of the will of Cardinal Sparta, murdered by Rodrigo Borgia. Now, take the paper and put the two pieces together and read.
On the 25th day of April, 1498, being invited to dine by His Holiness Alexander VI, and fearing for my life, I declare to my nephew, Guido Spada, my sole heir, that I have buried in a place he knows, in a cave of the island of Monte Cristo, all that I possess of ingots, gold, monies, jewels, and diamonds, which treasure may amount to nearly 10 millions of Roman crowns, which you will find in the farthest angle of the island cave, and this treasure I bequeath and leave entirely to him as my sole heir, Cesar Spada. 10 million crowns.
Yes, 100 million francs of our money. Think of the good a man could do in the world with 100 million francs.
Yes.
The treasure is yours, my son. I bequeath it to you. Whenever you are freed, you have only to go to the island of Monte Cristo, and it will be there for you.
But I have no right to it, sir.
You are my son, Dante. You are the child that God sent to console me in my captivity.
Later, in fearful agony, he died. I closed his eyes and laid him out to rest as well as I could, and that night the governor of the prison came down to look at the boy. I watched him from my hiding place in the cell.
He's dead. He's dead, all right, Your Honor. Poor guy. He was a priest. Get him the newest sack that we find. What time shall we bury him, sir? The usual time, before dawn. And report to me when it's done. Very good, sir.
When the cell was empty again, I went in. On the bed at full length and faintly lighted by the light of a single candle was visible a sack of coarse cloth, and in it was stretched a long and stiffened form. Quickly, I unlaced the sack, drew out the corpse of the priest, and carried it through the tunnel to my cell. I laid it on my bed, turned the head to the wall, and covered it with a sheet. For the last time, I kissed the ice-cold brow. Then I went back to the dead man's cell. Could hear steps in the passage and voices as the guards came back with a stretcher. Quickly, I got into the sack in place of the corpse. I laced the sack around my body. I lay stiff, hoping that they would not hear the beating of my heart.
Here we go. You take the head, I'll take the feet. It's heavy enough for an old man. They say every year adds half a pound of the bones. All right. Up you go. I got it. Here we go. Funny thing. You're feeling through the sack. It's dead 12 hours and you're still warm. Yeah, only when I open this door. Oh, Lord, it's cold up here. This will cool him off. Have you got the weight? There it is. Tie it on. Round his feet. Yeah, that's right. Tight. See if you can do it any tighter. Yeah, that's all right. That'll sink him. All right, now. You ready? 1, 2. Wait a minute. Get nearer the edge. The last one was mashed on a rock, and we got the blame for it. All right. Come on. Easy. Let's go. 1, 2.
Campbell Playhouse presentation of The Count of Monte Cristo, starring Orson Welles. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. This is Ernest Chappell, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you back to the Campbell Playhouse. In a moment, we shall resume our presentation of The Count of Monte Cristo. Lately, I've been speaking of the increasing numbers of good home cooks who, after years of making their own soup, have put by their kettles and are now letting Campbell's make soup for them. Tonight, I'd like you to hear from a woman who is herself one of these good home cooks. She's Mrs. Barbara Roth of 2134 24th Street, Astoria, Long Island, who has come to our studio to tell you personally what she told us in a recent letter. Will you read it now, Mrs. Roth?
Ever since I can remember, we've had soup with our main meal every day. Mother and I would cook soup each Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, a 2-day supply each time. It was a big job and a long cooking procedure, but Mother has always insisted we need soup every day. About 6 months ago, we tried our first can of Campbell's soup. Well, the decision was unanimous in favor of Campbell's. Since that time, we've enjoyed not only the good taste of Campbell's soups, but also the easy way of preparing them. So I just don't wonder at all that people are giving up soup making at home. We've tried nearly every soup that Campbell's make and found each one such a treat, we thought you were entitled to know about it.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Roth. Indeed, we do appreciate knowing about it. Certainly, we at Campbell's are devoting time and care and all our skill to the making of soups worthy of a place at your table. And that's why I want to say to every other good home cook listening tonight, we'd like to make soup for you, too. If you haven't done so already, will you give us a trial? Try Campbell's chicken soup, for instance, for its deep, rich chicken flavor. Or try Campbell's vegetable soup, a soup that's practically a meal in itself. If you'll do this and let the fine flavor of these Campbell soups speak for itself to you and your family, I'm almost certain you'll say, well, soup is one thing I no longer need make in my home. Now we resume our Campbell Playhouse presentation of The Count of Monte Cristo, starring Orson Welles.
In the late summer and fall of the year 1834, a merchant vessel plying their trade between the south of France and the coast of western Italy arrived in port with a strange story. Some miles north of the Isle of Corsica, there was a small island known as the Island of Monte Cristo. Naked and barren, it offered no shelter for ships, no possible place for human habitation. Even the savage Barbary pirates who infested those waters were known to avoid its rock-bound, treacherous shores. From this island, a thin column of smoke was now seen rising day after day as from a fire, and a large ship was seen standing out to sea, flying no flag. On one or two occasions, when curious merchantmen attempted to approach the island, they were greeted with a cannon shot across their bows. Then one night the ship vanished. After that, there was no more smoke, and the island of Monte Cristo remained barren and deserted as before. September 1834. There arrived in Marseille a man of about 38 or 40 of a pallor that was almost livid. He gave the impression of a man who had been enclosed for a long time in a tomb. Soon after landing, he inquired for an old man by the name of Dantes. And hearing that he had been dead for the past 14 years, he inquired for a tailor of the city called Cadarus.
My name is Cadarus, monsieur.
There are a few questions I'd like to ask you.
Yes? What makes you think I can answer them or that I want to?
This.
1,000 francs.
Yes.
What are you doing?
I'm tearing this 1,000-franc note in two, my friend. One half is yours now.